The golden sun of the Qing dynasty beats down upon the sprawling majesty of the Forbidden City, where the fate of empires is decided with a single stroke of a brush. Within the grand halls, the air is thick with the scent of incense and the weight of absolute power as Emperor Shunji delivers his decrees. The officials involved in bribery are to be dismissed and their possessions seized. He commands, his voice ringing with a maturity that belies his years. But beneath the crown of a genius beats the heart of a bored, mischievous boy. As the ministers drone on about plague ceremonies and prayers, Shunji's eyes wander to a bowl of ripe peaches. With a sudden playful swish, he tosses a peach down the imperial stairs. "Ah!" gasps a startled official as he catches the fruit midair. Shunji's lips curl into a wicked smirk. "I am far too lazy to attend these tedious etiquette matters personally," the emperor announces, turning his back on the court. "Since you caught the peach, you shall represent me." Court dismissed. Outside, the emperor stretches his limbs, his royal robes flowing like silk in the breeze. "I am exhausted, Xiao Liang Xi, I am bored to death," he complains to his loyal eunuch. The servant bows low, presenting a tray of jade nameplates. "Your Majesty, the Queen Dowager insists you visit the inner palace tonight," he pleads. Shunji scoffs, sweeping the nameplates onto the floor with a disdainful flick of his hand. "Not going. Those women are commonplace and irritating. I have no obligation to play with them." "But Your Majesty," Xiao Liangzi whimpers. "The queen went to the dowager's palace and cried for an hour. If you don't see her, the dowager will surely blame you." Shunji pauses, a cold, calculating glint entering his eyes. "Humph, that vain woman," he mutters. Then, a slow, predatory grin spreads across his face. "Fine. Tell the queen to serve me tonight." The news the inner palace like a lightning bolt. Queen Borijijit, draped in crimson and gold, trembles with delight. "Really?" she gasps, her eyes wide with predatory ambition. She barks orders at her terrified attendants, demanding they prepare her for the night of her life. The preparation is a symphony of cruelty. As the queen soaks in a bath of rose petals, she suddenly snarls. "Why is it a little too warm?" Her maid falls to her knees, sobbing for mercy, but the queen is relentless. "Bring her out and slap her face," she commands, her eyes cold as flint. Even the makeup process is a battlefield. Mirror after mirror is rejected, shattered against the floor. "This is ordinary. Do you want the king to have a faint impression of me?" After ordering more maids to be beaten, she pushes them aside and paints her own face with garish, heavy strokes. "Only my personally drawn makeup looks nice," she declares, admiring her own reflection. Night falls, and the queen is carried in a sedan to the hall of mental cultivation. "Wait outside. Do not disturb us." She giggles to her guards, her heart racing as she steps into the dark, silent chamber. "Queen Borijijit pays respects to Your Majesty," she calls out, but there is no answer, only a chilling silence. Behind the heavy yellow curtains of the imperial bed, a dark silhouette sits motionless. "Eh? Did he fall asleep?" she whispers, her vanity overriding her fear. She reaches out with long, gold-tipped fingernails and slowly lifts the curtain. Pope, monstrous, gray-skinned head with bulging eyes and jagged teeth leaps out at her. The head detaches from its body, flying through the air with a horrific, demonic grin. "Ghost! Ghost!" The queen shrieks, her carefully applied makeup smearing as she stumbles back in terror. She scrambles across the floor, the candles flickering out as if extinguished by an invisible hand. "Save me!" she wails, fleeing the room as the floating head pursues her through the dark corridors. She glances back, her breath hitching in her throat. The monster is right behind her, its dead eyes staring into her soul. "Eti kai tu. She screams before collapsing into a dead faint, her body hitting the floor with a heavy thud. Guards and maids rush into the hall, lanterns swinging wildly. It's the queen's voice. What happened? They find her unconscious, her face a mask of terror. "There's a ghost," she moans as she regains a sliver of consciousness. The servants search every corner, finding nothing but extinguished candles. "Your Majesty, perhaps it was an illusion?" The guard asks, confused. High above on the roof of the Forbidden City, a silhouette stands against the full moon. Shunji chuckles to himself, the insanity toy from the Northern Carpenter bureau tucked away. By now, the queen should have fainted in fright. He laughs, his silver hair shimmering in the moonlight. He looks out over the rooftops, his eyes bright with the thrill of the prank. "Xiao Liangzi, accompany me. No one will discover us in these guard disguises." With a burst of speed, the emperor leaps across the tiles, vanishing into the night. The next day, the bustling energy of the capital city hums with life. A simple sedan carries a young woman named Liang Xi toward a grand estate. Looking through the window, she marvels at the world she has never known. "What a bustling capital," she whispers. The sedan stops before the towering gates of Sir Ishuo's residence, guarded by stone lions. Liang Xi steps out, her beauty understated and pure, like a lotus in a muddy pond. "Mother, your daughter has finally come to acknowledge father," she thinks, her eyes misty with memory. For years, her father had only sent money and food, never visiting. "I'm sure he had his difficulties," she tells herself, trying to justify his absence as she walks through the magnificent gardens. Her maid Jilan smiles at her. "Miss, your dress is plain, but it cannot hide your beauty." Master will surely like it. But the reunion is delayed. A housekeeper greets them at the steps. Liang Xi, miss, right? He bows, explaining that Sir Ishuo has just received an imperial decree and will be gone for 2 days. He leads her inside to wait, offering tea while a room is prepared. In the shadows of the hallway, eyes full of venom watch Liang Xi's every move. Yu Yan, Liang Xi's half-sister, clutches a silk fan until her knuckles turn white. Hateful. She's not an ugly person, she hisses to her servant. Her heart burns with a bitter prejudice inherited from her own mother. Her mother was a Han person, a prostitute. I will not acknowledge this sister. She is incensed that her father intends to let this low-born girl join the Imperial Palace elections alongside her. Watch how I take care of you. Yu Yan growls, stepping out into the light. Liang Xi looks up, recognizing her younger sister from her mother's descriptions. Yu Yan Maimei? She says softly, offering a polite greeting. Yu Yan sneers, her held high in a show of arrogance. I haven't acknowledged you as my sister. Why did you name me as Maimei? She snaps. She circles Liang Xi, mocking her poverty-stricken clothing and remote origins. Liang Xi lowers her gaze, her eyes brimming with tears but her voice steady. Liang Xi is a newcomer. I don't understand the etiquette. Please forgive me. A cruel, calculating smile plays on Yu Yan's lips. I may forgive you, but that depends on whether you are tactful. She leans in, her voice a poisonous honey. Since father isn't home, you will need to listen to me. Liang Xi, hoping to find peace in her new home, nods submissively. It is proper to listen to you, Miss Yu Yan. Yu Yan's eyes flash with a dark triumph. Good. Then we shall have a meal together. She turns to the servants, her voice sharp. Housekeeper, Jilan, leave us. I wish to talk intimately with Liang Xi. Do not appear without my call. The two sisters sit alone at a table laden with food, the atmosphere thick with unspoken tension. Thank you for being hospitable, Liang Xi says, unaware of the trap being set. Yu Yan leans forward, her gaze fixed on her sister like a hawk. If you are thanking me sincerely, then you should drink this cup of alcohol. She pushes the small cup toward Liang Xi, her smile never reaching her cold, expectant eyes. Liang Xi hesitates, her fingers trembling. But I have never had alcohol before. The woman's eyes narrowed, a sharp, predatory glint reflecting the sunlight as she leaned toward the trembling girl. So that means you aren't sincere to me, huh? She hissed, her voice dripping with a false, honeyed poison. Liang Xi's breath hitched, her hand flying to her chest as her heart hammered against her ribs. She stammered, trapped under that piercing gaze, until finally she relented, raising the small white cup. I'll drink. As the liquid vanished down her throat, a dark, triumphant smirk curled the woman's lips. It didn't take long. Within seconds, the world began to tilt and blur. This alcohol. Why is it this strong? Liang Xi gasped, her vision swimming as the cup slipped from her numb fingers and clattered to the floor. With a heavy thud, the young maiden collapsed onto the cold tiles, her consciousness slipping into a dark abyss. Above her, the woman's hands came together in two sharp, mocking claps, summoning the servants who waited just outside the door. Miss, Wang An whispered, his face pale as he looked down at the unconscious girl. But his mistress gave him no room for pity. Wang An, immediately take this lowly person to Jade Red House to sell off, she commanded. The servant's eyes went wide. Miss, she is, after all, Master's daughter. Wouldn't this be a bit overboard? Besides, if Master came back, you are getting more and more meddlesome. She snapped, turning her back on him with a flourish of her crimson robes. I will take the consequences of my decisions myself. When father comes back, just tell him that she didn't change her wild nature and insisted on strolling down the street alone. She got lost as a result, understand? Yes, the servants muttered, bowing their heads in fear. The woman stared out at the garden, her eyes burning with a lifetime of resentment. If Liang Xi stayed, she would steal her father's doting and the limelight during the upcoming female election. Just like how her mother made my mother suffer her whole life. So nothing I do to her is overboard. Night fell over the capital, and the glowing lanterns of the Jade Red House flickered with a decadent, dangerous light. Inside, a mysterious young master hidden behind a white fan watched the chaos with cold, emerald eyes. Here is 100 silver banknote, his servant announced, tossing the paper to the floor. The madam's eyes turned into literal stars at the sight of the fortune. Wah! So many? No problem. She squealed. The madam paraded a line of girls before him, but the man didn't even look up. Go away, he commanded, his voice like ice. These vulgar things, even I am disgusted when I see them, let alone that person. No! Change to better ones? The servant barked, pointing a finger at the trembling madam. She bit her lip, thinking quickly. But this small store doesn't have a more beautiful girl. Why don't you try? That one that just got sold here? Two men dragged a limp, beautifully dressed figure into the room. Liang Xi lay amidst a bed of lilies, her pale skin glowing like moonlight, her features delicate and untouched by the world. The man with the fan stood over her, his sharp gaze tracing the line of her jaw. The madam hovered nervously behind him. This just came today, drank a lot, haven't woken up yet, she explained. The man's eyes flashed with sudden interest. She'll do. I'll give you another 1,000 silver banknotes. Young master will take her away, the servant declared, thrusting the massive sum into the madam's greedy hands. Also, do not tell anyone about today's matter, or else watch out. Later, within the secluded walls of the Xiang prince residence, the man stood by a circular window, his fan closed. What's going on? She still haven't wake up? He asked. She was given drugged alcohol. I reckon she will be able to wake up tomorrow morning, his subordinate King Yang replied. The prince looked down at the sleeping beauty with a detached, chilling pity. Oh, I'll have her wake up by that time. King Yang, dress and prepare her, then have an expert perform sorcery on her, and then send her to that place. He stepped closer to the bed, the silk curtains fluttering in the draft. He looked at Liang Xi's peaceful face, a pawn in a game she didn't even know was being played. It's a pity for you, he whispered to the silent room. If it weren't for my important affair, perhaps I won't be willing to let a girl as beautiful as you to go there to die miles away near a humble mountain hut. The emperor disguised as a common nobleman stopped in his tracks. How strange. Maybe he doesn't want to see me, he mused. His servant pointed toward the valley. Your Majesty, Gongzi, it looks like there are lots of peach blossoms that way. The emperor frowned. It's late autumn. How can there be peach blossoms? Good, then let's follow the path of these open cherry blossoms to the valley and see where we end up. News of the impossible blossoms spread through the capital like wildfire. Look. What is this? This morning lots of paper fell down. Commoners cried, picking up omens that spoke of flower demons and imperial ruin. In the imperial court, Prince Xiang stepped forward among the whispering ministers. While the people's hearts are uncertain, everyone here is talking so spiritedly. Why don't we go to the West Mountain to take a look ourselves into this matter? If the rumors are not true, let us go to the place of Conal and tell them to calm the people. The ministers nodded in frantic agreement. Exactly. That makes sense. Let us ride the carriages to the West Mountain. Deep in the valley, the emperor reached a hidden cavern. Vines draped over the entrance, and the air was thick with the scent of out-of-season petals. Above the dark maw of the cave, characters were carved into the stone. Flower Demon Cave. Why is there a place like this? The emperor wondered aloud. I don't know if there is some sort of flower demon, but let's go take a look. Inside the cave, Liang Xi's eyes snapped open. She was lying on a bed of pink petals, but a cold terror gripped her instantly. Why can't I move? Why isn't my body listening to me? And what happened with my clothes? She looked down at herself in horror. She was dressed in an elaborate, doll-like gown of pink and white silk, her hair adorned with heavy floral ornaments. Why do they look like this? The sound of footsteps echoed against the stone walls. A figure emerged from the shadows, a young man with silver-white hair and striking eyes. Has someone arrived? Liang Xi thought, her heart racing. The emperor stopped, staring at the girl bathed in the ethereal light of the cave. If indeed it's a girl, then perhaps she is the flower demon. Liang Xi's mind screamed for him to stay away. Don't get any closer. What so are you? But when she tried to speak, her throat felt clamped shut. Weird. Why can't I make a single sound? Also, it feels like this isn't my body. Young girl, are you the rumored flower demon? The emperor asked, his voice echoing. Suddenly, Liang Xi felt her arm rise against her will. Her body lunged forward, her fingers reaching for him. She fell into his arms, her face inches from his. Tears of frustration and fear welled in her eyes. I don't want to do this. But why isn't my body listening to me? All my 4 limbs and bones aren't listening, and I can't speak. Invisible to the naked eye, glowing threads of light extended from her joints, trailing back into the darkness like the strings of a marionette. Deep in a hidden chamber, a man with long, crimson hair and ritualistic markings smirked as he manipulated a small wooden doll. My puppet show has begun. I just need to control this girl puppet. He glared at the doll with murderous intent. Azinjiro Fulin, King Emperor, your reputations will immediately be ruined. Back in the cave, the emperor's eyes narrowed as he held the girl. Could this be a trap? Is this girl here especially to confuse me? With a sudden, forceful movement, he shoved her back. Pew shakes. Liang Xi hit the ground with a painful thump. Before she could even register the fall, the sound of steel ringing against stone filled the cave. Xing, Emperor had drawn his blade, the cold edge of the sword pointed directly at her throat. What on earth do you plan to do? Tears finally spilled over, trailing down her cheeks as she looked up at the sharp metal. How did it become like this? Who sent me here? Who is controlling me? The emperor paused, his brow furrowing. She started crying. He reached out, his gloved hand gripping her chin and forcing her to look him in the eye. Are you mute? He scanned her body, his gaze falling on the strange, red circular marks around her wrists. No, she's not. Looking at the marks on her wrist, it is clearly the sorcery of the S.A. Manchus. Could it be the fabled Thousand Fallings puppet? Making her to dress up as a flower demon to confuse me, then waiting for the right time to make her burn herself, or perhaps me? He reached into his robes, pulling out a heavy string of dark red beads. Perhaps the guarding evil prayer beads the previous emperor left behind will be useful. With a violent motion, he whipped the beads through the air. Whoosh! They looped around Liang Xi's neck with a resounding boom of spiritual energy. A flash of blue light erupted. A swoosh, the marks on Liang Xi's wrists began to fade as the invisible threads snapped. Draw back. In the hidden chamber, the red-haired sorcerer gasped as his wooden doll flew out of his hands. Plop. He stared at his empty palms in disbelief. They unexpectedly broke through my magic. Liang Xi gasped, feeling the weight return to her limbs. I'm back. The emperor lowered his sword slightly, though his expression remained stern. Perhaps you can speak now? He stepped closer, the tip of his blade still glinting dangerously. Speak. Who told you to come here and act as a flower demon? Liang Xi trembled, her mind racing. No, I cannot reveal my identity, and there's Miss Yu Yan's matter as well. She looked up at him, her voice finally returning in a shaky whisper. Sir, I am the daughter of a good family. It's just, I was given some incapacitating drugs, and when I woke up I was here. The white-haired youth leans in, his amber eyes piercing and cold, as he interrogates the trembling girl. Daughter of a good family, were you forced to come here against your will? Surely you must have some memories of who drugged you? Liang Xi can barely find her voice, stammering that she remembers nothing, only to have the youth grip her chin with a dangerous, mocking smirk. Heh, it seems like you don't know my identity. Aren't you afraid that I'll take you back to torture you? The tension is shattered as a servant bursts into the cavern, his face pale with fright. My lord, bad news. I saw Lord Wang coming this way. The youth's eyes narrow, the playful malice replaced by sharp calculation as he realizes he's been lured into a trap. He casts a final, lingering look at Liang Xi, debating whether to drag her with him for interrogation. Ultimately, he decides the risk of being caught by Lord Wang is too great, vowing to himself that he will return to this cave one day. As the mysterious youth retreats through the back of the mountain, a lavish imperial procession snakes through the flowering trees. Lord Wang stands at the cave's mouth, his long black hair catching the wind. I suppose that rumor wasn't completely false. He snaps his fan open and strides into the grotto, but his composure falters when he finds it empty. Strange. Perhaps he has already come? He stares at the scattered petals on the stone floor, his jaw tightening in silent fury. Even that girl has escaped. I guess my plan failed. High above on the rocky slopes, Liang Xi emerges into the blinding daylight, breathless and alone. If I go down the mountain from here, no one should be able to spot me, she thinks, but the treacherous terrain betrays her, sending her tumbling down a steep embankment. Battered and exhausted, she eventually reaches a stream where two village girls are washing clothes. They stare in awe at her fine pink silks, calling her a goddess. But Liang Xi knows her beauty is a beacon for danger. Xiao Mai Mi, do you like my dress? If you like it, would you like to change it with me? Now disguised in ragged, patched blue linens, Liang Xi slips through the gates of Jing City, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She leans against a cold stone wall, her stomach growling as her strength begins to fail. I'm so tired and hungry. I don't know how long I can hold on. Suddenly, the sound of galloping hooves echoes through the street, and a boy with vibrant red hair pulls his horse to a sharp halt. He stares at the girl in the shadows, then looks down at a painted scroll in his hand. You guys stay here, he commands his men, dismounting with the grace of a seasoned warrior. He approaches her cautiously, his eyes searching hers. Excuse me. Are you Gigi Liang? Liang Xi looks up in shock as the boy introduces himself as Fei Yangu, her younger brother. Father is worried sick about you. He's been sending people to look for you all over the city. He shows her the portrait, a hidden image of her mother that reveals their striking resemblance, and takes her hand. Jieji, let's go back home. Back at the manor, Liang Xi kneels before her father, Chen Shuo, who greets her with a mixture of relief and sternness. Dear child, stand up. He tells her a cover story about her getting lost while walking, but Liang Xi's mind races with suspicion. Why did Yu Yan get me drunk and send me to that cave? Did she tell father I just got lost? Across the room, Yu Yan watches with a venomous glare, her silk robes rustling as she approaches. She puts on a sickeningly sweet performance, clutching Liang Xi's hands and crying about how worried she was. But as soon as their father looks away, Yu Yan leans in, her voice a poisonous whisper. If you dare tell anyone what really happened, I'll be sure to have something planned out for you and your mother. Chen Shuo asks how she survived 2 days alone, and Liang Xi, fearing for her mother's safety, swallows the truth. I accidentally walked further and further away and got lost. Satisfied, her father announces his grand plan. He will hire masters to teach both daughters the arts so they may enter the imperial court together. Liang Xi's heart sinks. But, father, I want to stay here and be of help to you, not go to the court and be the emperor's property. Chen Shuo looks at her with a pained, wary expression. Silly child, he confesses that he owes her mother a debt he can never truly repay. If you truly wish to be a part of the household, then you must enter the court and become a court lady. That's the only option. Only through her success in the palace will her mother finally be officially recognized and accepted into the family. The training begins immediately under the watchful eye of an old Malamao teacher. Liang Xi is a natural, gliding across the floor with a bowl of water on her head without spilling a drop, while Yu Yan stumbles and fumes. In calligraphy, Liang Xi's brushwork is praised as being fit for the great masters, leaving Yan's page a blotchy mess. Whether it is the elegance of dance or the haunting melody of the guzheng, Liang Xi excels at everything, driving Yu Yan into a silent, trembling rage. Late one night, the sisters confront each other on a moonlit bridge. Stop dreaming about those things. Yu Yan spits, her face twisted in the shadows. Don't forget what kind of low status you were born with. Just back out and don't ruin the reputation of the Dong-yi family. But Liang Xi has found her spine. I will not back out of it, she declares, her eyes flashing with a strength Yu Yan didn't expect. Please stop trying to get in my way. She turns her back on her sister, walking away with her maid, Zhailan. I will do my best, and I will definitely not give up just because someone wants me to. Yu Yan erupts, screaming after her until her maid, a sharp-featured girl, restrains her. It's fine, miss. Don't alarm the master. The maid whispers a dark suggestion, hinting that they should wait until the day of the selection to make their real move. Meanwhile, Zhailan admires her mistress's newfound resolve. Liang Xi looks up at the moon, her thoughts drifting to her mother. If we were to have been so gentle as to be pushed over, then we wouldn't have survived that long. She knows the court will be a cage, a place of no freedom where she must serve an emperor she does not know. As long as mother's dream can come true, I'm willing to give my life in exchange. In another part of the city, a beautiful woman named Qing Yang gazes into a mirror, her elaborate headpiece shimmering. Lord Wang enters, a smug smile on his face. Good job, Qing Yang. With your position, it shouldn't be a problem getting you into the court. He reminds her that she is his secret weapon to defeat the witch who guards the emperor. Qing Yang bows her head in total devotion. Master saved my life. Even if I must leap into a wall of flames, I would not mind. The day of the selection finally arrives, the Forbidden City's golden roofs gleaming under the sun. Every 3 years, the daughters of the elite gather to compete for a place in the emperor's harem. Yu Yan arrives in a gown of garish, expensive pink, while Liang Xi follows in a simple blue robe, her eyes downcast. Liang Xi, trying to fight with me, just wait and see. Yu Yan sneers to herself as they join the long line of candidates. Officials move through the ranks, recording their lineages. Dong-yi Yu Yan, daughter of Chen Shuo. Dong-yi Liang Xi, daughter of Chen Shuo. The other girls begin to whisper, mocking Liang Xi's shabby appearance and labeling her an illegitimate daughter. Liang Xi touches the single blue hair ornament she was able to save from Yu Yan's sabotage. As long as I have this, there shouldn't be as many problems with presenting respect. The crowd parts as more formidable candidates arrive. The identical Wuya twins, Yunjia and Duani. Then, a woman with a domineering aura and a massive golden phoenix crown, Yushinu Huluyuzi, strides forward. She's followed by a petite, doll-like girl named Fucha Qingning. Finally, Qing Yang makes her entrance as the daughter of Sir King Guo, her beauty as graceful as a cloud. The other girls are stunned, having never heard of this daughter before. Qing Yang's eyes lock onto Liang Xi, her gaze calculating. What is that girl doing here? I'll have to inspect her carefully. Just as the gates are about to close, a final carriage skids to a halt. Wait! I'm sorry, I'm late. A girl in deep purple named Bor Jeji Turong Hui rushes forward. The crowd murmurs she has the same surname as the queen, yet she carries herself with the timid air of a servant. As the sun reaches its zenith, the chief eunuch's voice rings out. It's time. Please now enter the palace for the selection. The morning sun caught the cruel glint in New Huluyuzi's eyes as she watched her prey from a distance, her lips curling into a triumphant sneer. Ha, the only thing I had left after this morning were those pearls that I had already messed with, she whispered to the wind, her mind a viper's nest of schemes. Liang Xi, I will continue to humiliate you like this. Unaware of the storm brewing, Liang Xi stood in the long, winding line of candidates, her fingers nervously brushing her bare hair. I can't go back and pick them up. That would be embarrassing, she fretted, watching the sea of ornate silks and glittering pins ahead of her. I don't have any other hair ornament. What do I do? The heavy silence of the courtyard was broken by the sharp snap of a scroll being unfurled. Everyone whose name was called out have passed the elimination round and will continue the process of selection, an official barked, his voice devoid of sympathy. Behind him, a chorus of heartbroken wails erupted as the rejected maidens were ushered toward the gates. Everyone else, please go home. Among the survivors, the atmosphere shifted from terror to arrogance. One girl stuck out her tongue and flashed a victory sign, jiggling, hee, I didn't know that it'd be so easy to pass the elimination round. Nearby, a pair of identical twins leaned in close, their voices dripping with malice. It sure is fun to watch those who were eliminated cry. One chirped, as the other nodded eagerly. Yeah, we definitely won't be eliminated like them. Standing apart from the common chatter, New Huluyuzi adjusted her high golden collar, her gaze fixed on the imperial throne. A bunch of idiots, she muttered, dismissing the other girls with a flick of her eyes. The candidates were soon ushered into a grand hall where rows of embroidery frames stood like silent sentinels. This is the first round of the selection embroidery, the lead eunuch announced, pacing the floor. A girl has many virtues and morals. Embroidery is one of the most important things a girl must know how to do. Concubines, please show your sewing skills with this task. Today's theme will be a gift for Her Majesty the Empress Dowager in honor of her recent birthday. He came to a halt, his shadow stretching across the polished floor. After 6 hours, you must turn in your work. They will be inspected by the Empress Dowager herself. Liang Xi's needle moved with the grace of a seasoned artist, her mind picturing a scene of divine tranquility. A gift? She thought, her brow furrowed in concentration as vibrant red petals began to bloom beneath her touch. I know. Slowly, a masterpiece of camellias and a celestial cup emerged from the white silk, smelling in her mind of spring. But across the room, frustration was boiling over. New Hulu Yuzi stared at her own tangled mess of threads, her face reddening with rage. Annoying, I've been sewing for so long yet it's still a mess, she hissed, her internal monologue a scream of fury. Sewing is usually what I'm worst at. Just then, a girl in green approached her, eyes lingering on Yuzi's finery. Gigi, your golden hair ornament is so pretty, she began, a cunning smile playing on her lips. Yuzi's eyes narrowed, sensing an opportunity. I know, she replied coolly. Then, leaning in, she whispered a devil's bargain. I can lend it to you for a day if you want. Maybe during the audience with the Emperor, he'll surely notice it and pick you. The girl's eyes widened with greed. Ah? Really? Yuzi's smile didn't reach her eyes. Yep, but the deal is you have to help me distract that girl named Liang Xi. The trap was set. The girl in green skipped over to Liang Xi's station, her voice a sugary falsetto. Gigi, the flowers you made are so pretty. Liang Xi, ever kind-hearted, looked up with a modest smile. There's a part I can't figure out how to sew. The girl continued, gesturing to her own frame. Can you help me? Liang Xi didn't hesitate. All right. Setting down her needle and following the girl away from her work. From the shadows, Nuhu Yuzi watched them go, a hand over her mouth to stifle a giggle. Hee, she snickered, creeping toward Liang Xi's unguarded frame. She looked down at the beautiful camellias and felt a surge of pure jealousy. Humph, it's 10 times better than mine. With a violent, jagged motion, she tore at the silk, her hand a blur of destruction. When Liang Xi returned moments later, her heart plummeted into her stomach. Huh? How did this happen? The centerpiece was gone, replaced by a gaping, ragged hole and frayed edges. Did someone sabotage it? What do I do? Liang Xi gasped, her voice trembling. Nearby, Yuzi watched her rival's despair with sadistic glee. Haha. Haha, the time is almost up, she thought, reveling in the sight of Liang Xi slumped over a frame. At least turning that in will be better than giving a blank test. But Liang Xi was not broken yet. She stared at the ruined silk, her eyes hardening with a sudden, desperate resolve. Since it was sabotaged, this is the only thing I can do, she whispered, her needle flashing as she began to stitch with a frantic, inspired speed. Time is up, the eunuchs shouted. All the pieces will be given to the Empress. The candidates stood in a daze as their work was collected. It's getting late. Everyone should head to the resting chambers. The selections will continue tomorrow. 2 in a room, decide by yourself who you want to share the room with, the official commanded. Liang Xi's friend took her arm, leading her toward the dormitories. This room looks nice, let's use this one, she suggested. Their path was suddenly blocked by a flash of yellow silk. Nuhu Yuzi purposefully collided with Liang Xi's friend, her hand accidentally flicking a golden handkerchief into the air. Ah, she cried out with fake surprise as the cloth fluttered away. She turned on them, her expression shifting instantly into one of regal fury. Humph, this miss has 2 things to tell you. 1, I like that room and I am staying in it alone. She stepped closer, her eyes boring into the terrified girl. 2, you bumped into me and knocked my handkerchief out of my hand. The consequences for that are quite severe. The crowd of onlookers began to whisper. They have made Nuhu Yuzi mad at them. One girl hissed. Yeah, I heard her father has an important position in the government, and that a relative is in charge of housekeeping in the palace. Liang Xi's friend bowed her head, her spirit crushed. Since Gigi likes that room, then I will let you have it. As for the handkerchief, I'll just pick it up. She reached for the yellow silk, but a sudden gust of wind caught it, swirling it high into the air. Whoosh, the cloth danced out of reach, finally snagging on the high branches of a jingo tree. Ah? The girl gasped. Yuzi's face contorted with malice. Hey, I got that golden handkerchief from another country. It's the only one of its kind in Jing City. You have 2 options. Either climb up that tree and get it for me, or kneel down and beg for forgiveness. Liang Xi stepped forward, her voice calm but firm, cutting through the tension. All of us are gathered here to be selected into the court. We should be trying to help each other achieve our goals, since we all share the same dream, she began, her eyes on Yuzi. Since we have accidentally knocked the handkerchief out of your hand, we will give you the room we were originally going to take instead. I don't think Jiaji would want to cause a ruckus right now in the middle of the palace. It would ruin Jiaji's name. It'll also cause the members of the royal family to think that we are a bunch of concubines who like to cause trouble and drama. The crowd shifted, the murmurs turning in Liang Xi's favor. She's right. She's got a point, the girls whispered. Yuzi's jaw tightened. Oh? You're quite the smooth talker. Do you think you can tell me what to do just because you think the emperor might pick you? Liang Xi shook her head. Liang Xi wouldn't do that. Liang Xi just wants to help Gigi and everyone else. Yuzi scoffed, her pride wounded. I see, so you want to continue dragging this on. Well, let's see if the emperor picks me, or you, who has nothing valuable on herself. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a low, venomous hiss. If you don't want me to bother her, then I'll just bother you instead. If you don't climb up that tree and get my handkerchief down right now, or I'll go and tell my family that you knocked my handkerchief out of my hand and even caused a disturbance. It'll ruin your chances of being chosen. Liang Xi stood silent, the weight of the threat hanging over her. That Liang Xi is too weak, someone whispered in the back. New Hulu Yuzi has a higher chance. Suddenly, a new figure emerged from the crowd, a girl with deep purple hair and an elaborate golden crown. I can use this chance to get friendly with her, she thought, her eyes fixed on Yuzi. She stepped into the center of the courtyard, a confident smile on her face. Everyone, it's not so difficult to get that handkerchief down. With a sudden, acrobatic whoosh, she launched herself into the air, her robes billowing like wings as she snatched the cloth from the branch and landed with the grace of a cat. What a great kung fu move! The crowd cheered. She walked up to Yuzi and extended the cloth. Here, I agree with what this miss said, the girl in purple continued, glancing at Liang Xi. We should be assisting each other, so I hope that Gigi can leave her alone. Yuzi snatched the handkerchief back, her eyes burning. All right. I'll leave it be for today, but... She leaned close to Liang Xi one last time. Liang Xi, I'll remember you. With a huff, she turned and marched away. The girl in purple turned to Liang Xi and her friend. Since we all agree with each other, why don't we share a room? She offered. Liang Xi smiled warmly. Thank you for your help just now. That night, the palace was bathed in moonlight as the embroidery pieces were brought before the Empress Dowager. She sat upon her golden throne, her presence commanding and cold. Put them down. I will examine them carefully. She flipped through the first few entries with boredom until one caught her eye. This piece has a special atmosphere to it, almost magical with an immortal spirit. It's better than all the others before it. Her attendant nodded. Yes, and the flowers look so realistic. The Empress Dowager's eyes narrowed as she read the name. Yuyan. Remember that name and prepare it for future use. Then, she reached for the last piece, the one Liang Xi had salvaged. Huh, such simple stitches, what is written on it? She wondered aloud. She began to read the poem embroidered into the silk. The snow flutters and floats down a creek. Freely and easily they fly and gather together. Her expression softened, a rare look of nostalgia crossing her face. I wouldn't have imagined there to be such an elegant piece. She traced the lines of the snowy mountain. Although there are only a few stitches used, this piece has a strong aura to it. The snow falling during winter makes me remember my hometown. Which concubine made this? The attendant checked the scroll. Empress Dowager, it was Dong Yi Liang Xi. Meanwhile, in the candidates' quarters, Nihulu Yuzi was already plotting her next move. Miss, I have prepared the clothes that you'll need for tomorrow's dance contest. Her personal eunuch, Uncle Chang, whispered. Yuzi's eyes gleamed with malice. Good. Put it together with the other concubine's clothes, and make sure that I'm the one that pulls it out. She leaned in closer, her voice a deadly rasp. Also, Uncle Chang, there's a girl named Dong Yi Liang Xi. I want you to help me take care of her. When she has to draw out the clothes, make her draw out that one. Uncle Chang bowed low. All right. The second day dawned with a clear, bright sky over the palace. Inside the inner sanctum, the young empress was being dressed. Empress, the Empress Dowager has summoned you to help pick out the new concubines. A servant announced. The Empress's face contorted into a chibi-esque mask of rage. New concubines? Humphy. Are they here to steal the Emperor's affection? So annoying, so annoying, so annoying, she screamed, literally fuming with theatrical fire. The girl in purple from the night before, Fei, stepped forward to soothe her. Empress, I think that going to see those concubines won't be a bad idea. This way, you'll know who's going to be accepted and figure out who's strong and who's weak. The Empress paused, her eyes widening. Oh, I see. In the grand selection hall, the Empress Dowager sat waiting, her face a mask of disappointment. The Emperor is still not here. A nervous eunuch bowed. Empress Dowager, the Emperor said that he had an urgent business to take care of, so he can't come today. She sighed heavily. Sigh, he's still the same as before. Then the Empress and I shall pick. He won't be able to refuse anyways. She raised a hand. Let the concubines come. Please write down what you'll be performing with the clothes you have pulled out. Nihulu Yuzi was the first to take the stage. She moved with practiced elegance, her fan spreading like a peacock's tail. Nihulu Yuzi's peacock dance. So elegant, the onlookers gasped. Even the Empress gritted her teeth in jealousy, her face turning blue with annoyance. Yuzi spun, her vibrant green and blue robes catching the light as she performed a flawless routine. The Empress Dowager smiled. A beautiful dance, you may stay. The Empress let out a frustrated Yujiats. Thank you, Empress Dowager, Yuzi chirped, bowing low. The Empress Dowager glanced sideways at the young Empress. Empress, did I just hear you grit your teeth? The Empress forced a pained smile. No, of course not. Empress Dowager, you must have heard wrong. Next was Fei Xi Yang, who performed the swallow dance. She moved with incredible speed, her long blue hair whipping behind her as she leaped and spun across the floor. So cool! How spectacular! The crowd cheered. The Empress Dowager nodded. This one is good too, keep her. The Empress, now practically engulfed in flames of rage, muttered, so harsh. As the selection continued, the Empress Dowager noticed the Empress's deteriorating mood. Huh? She asked, catching her daughter-in-law in a moment of visible distress. The Empress quickly wiped the sweat from her brow and forced a neutral expression. Ah, back to normal. In the dressing room, New Hulu Yuzi was already gloating to her reflection. Congratulations to Miss for being chosen, Uncle Chang whispered as he helped her with her earrings. Humph. It's nothing to be surprised about. Of course I was gonna get chosen. She looked at her reflection, a dark smile spreading across her face. I already planned for Liang Xi's outfit to be one of the white robes of the Empress. If she dances while wearing that robe with the phoenix in front of the Empress, it'll be insulting her. But if she doesn't dance, she'll automatically get eliminated. I heard that the Empress Dowager is easily angered and is fierce. Let's wait and see what happens when she gets angry. Ha ha ha. I want to go and enjoy the show. Unaware of the impending doom, Liang Xi wandered through the wings of the stage. Waiting for the performance to start is boring. I'll walk around for a bit, she mused. She came across a table laden with folded garments. Are these the clothes that the other girls are wearing for the performance? She picked up a tag. Is this hers? Dong Yi Liang Xi. A dark, mischievous light entered her eyes. A blessing sent from the heavens. She spotted a young eunuch nearby and flashed him a dazzling, fake smile. Sir, I think someone outside is looking for you. The boy blinked, confused. Really? As soon as he ran off, Liang Xi grabbed a brush. He. Great, great. Ink, she dipped the brush and prepared to ruin the very trap Yuzi had set for her. Liang Xi's heart hammered against her ribs as she stared at the ruined fabric in her hands, her breath hitching at the sight of the elaborate phoenix patterns, a motif strictly reserved for the Empress, and the jagged, dark stains of ink and spit that marred the white silk. No! I must have been sabotaged. She whispered, the realization of the trap closing in on her. If she wore this, she would be executed for treason, but if she failed to perform, she would be eliminated. She looked toward the official's desk, knowing that as a mere concubine candidate, her pleas for help would be dismissed as a nuisance, leaving her alone with the evidence of her ruin. I know, she gasped, a spark of desperate inspiration flashing in her eyes as she reached for the inkstone on the nearby table. With a sudden, decisive motion, she began pouring the thick, black liquid directly onto the white gown, ignoring her friend's shocked cry of, "Ah! Gigi, what are you?" "I know what I'm doing," Liang Xi insisted, her hands moving with frantic grace as she snatched a cluster of vibrant red peonies and pinned them into her hair, transforming herself into a vision of stark, intentional contrast. Outside, the announcer's voice boomed through the hall, calling Dong Yi Liang Xi to the stage while her rival, Yu Yan, watched with a predatory smirk, certain that her sabotage had sealed the girl's fate. But as Liang Xi stepped into the light, the music for the dance of the White Crane began, and the court gasped at the sight of her ink-washed robes and the massive crimson bloom crowning her head. She moved like a spirit of the brush, her body swirling in a mesmerizing display of motion that turned the ink stains into art, leaving the Empress Dowager enchanted and Yu Yan trembling with fury. What? She changed the white robe? The Empress hissed, her eyes narrowing as she watched the girl she had meant to humiliate captivate the entire room. Every turn, every extension of Liang Xi's arms seemed to tell a story of resilience, the black ink trailing behind her like the shadows of a crane in flight. The audience erupted in whispers of, "So beautiful." As the performance drew to a close, a triumph that no one could have predicted, even the Empress Dowager smiled, her voice warm as she declared, "Good. Dong Yi Liang Xi, you are a very graceful person with many talents. You may stay." Yu Yan's face contorted with rage, her fingers twitching as she was summoned to perform next, her mind racing for a way to outshine her rival's unexpected success. So annoying. I don't usually sing a lot. What shall I sing this time? She muttered, peeking through the curtains to spy on the girl currently occupying the stage. That girl, Fu Cha Qingning, was singing a melody unlike anything the court had ever heard, a hauntingly modern tune about holding hands and moments of love. The Empress Dowager leaned forward, intrigued by the strange but pretty melody, and immediately granted Qingning a place in the palace. As Qingning skipped away, celebrating her victory, a small, silver device slipped from her sleeve and clattered to the floor. Yu Yan snatched it up, her eyes widening as she pressed a button, only to jump back in terror as the device began to scream, "Opipe Gangnam Style." Ah! Yu Yan shrieked, holding the blaring magic box away from her like a live coal while a panicked Qingning rushed to grab it. "Don't press it! You'll destroy it!" Qingning cried, snatching the MP4 player back. But the secret was out. Yu Yan knew she had been lip-syncing. Trapped, Qingning sighed and confessed the impossible truth. "I am actually not the real Miss Fu Cha. I time-traveled here from 2012. Yu didn't care about time travel. She cared about winning. She snatched the device again, scrolling through the 3 songs Love's Cherish, Gangnam Style, and nervous as her name was called to the stage. With no choice left, she shoved the device into her silk pouch and hurried out. I turned it on. Just sync your mouth with the lyrics. Kingning whispered frantically from the wings as a bizarre, high-pitched techno beat began to echo through the sacred halls. Sa say that beg demon. A demon bridge. The box shrieked, and Yu Yan, her face pale with horror, began to frantically flap her lips to the nonsensical sounds. The Empress and her court stared in stunned silence as Yu Yan bobbed her head to the frantic rhythm of Li Zhenghan's nervous. This stupid song is killing me, Yu Yan thought, her eyes swirling as she forced herself to keep up with the manic dan-dan-dan of the chorus. The court was left in a state of collective dizziness, the Empress Dowager's eyes rolling in her head from the sheer sensory assault. Yet strangely, the Empress herself began to nod along. As the music finally cut out with mechanical click-click, Yu Yan collapsed in a heap, gasping for air. I didn't sing well. Please forgive me, she panted, looking up to see the Empress Dowager still visibly shaken by the performance. But the Empress, invigorated by the noise, insisted the girl stay impressed by the energy of her suing and her song. With the selection over, the remaining concubines were gathered to hear their fate. A month of trial in the palace where a single broken rule would mean immediate expulsion. They were led through the sprawling, maze-like corridors of the Forbidden City as the sun began to set. From a high balcony, the young Emperor Shunshi watched them with cold, disinterested eyes, dismissing them all as mere attention seekers. Inside the inner chambers, the Empress slammed a book of names onto the table. Her face twisted in a snarl as she cursed Liang Xi and the others. Strange, her confidant murmured, looking over the list as the Empress fumed. The maid pointed to one name in particular, Borjiji Tironghui, a girl from the Empress Dowager's own lineage. She's a whole generation younger than me. There's no need for me to be worried. The Empress scoffed, though the maid warned her that this girl could be a potential replacement. Tomorrow, I'll find out how she looks with my own eyes. The Empress vowed, her shadow looming large against the palace walls as she plotted to scare the newcomer. That night, under the moonlight, Ronghui confessed her insecurities to Liang Xi, feeling like a simple village girl among the refined pearls of the capital. Liang Xi took her hand, offering a warm smile. Don't feel that way. We can be good friends from now on. The next day, the Empress sat before a lavish feast, her appetite ruined by her simmering jealousy. She decided to confront the concubines during their etiquette practice, deliberately surrounding herself with her least attractive attendants to ensure her own beauty remained undefeated. Ha ha ha! If the Emperor sees me, he'll definitely be impressed, she giggled to herself, marching toward the training courtyard. She burst into the practice area, her voice sharp as she demanded perfection every step and word. Her eyes locked onto the group, her teeth bared in a predatory grin. Which one of you is Borji Tironghui? Ronghui stepped forward with a trembling bow, her voice small as she answered. I have prepared a special pair of shoes for you, the Empress announced, gesturing to a trolding flower pot shoes with terrifying 7-inch heels. Ronghui's face went pale as she was forced to step onto the precarious stilts, her legs wobbling violently. To make it worse, the Empress ordered a cup filled with 1,000 tiny grains of rare fruit to be balanced on her head. Walk. You're not allowed to spill a single grain. Liang Xi watched in horror as her friend struggled, the Empress and her maids whispering and laughing as they waited for the inevitable fall. Ronghui's ankles gave way with a sickening wobble, her arms flailing as she cried out. She hit the stone floor with a heavy splat, the green cup shattering as 1,000 tiny red grains erupted across the courtyard. How dare you! The Empress shrieked, towering over the sobbing girl. You must stay here and pick up every grain before nightfall. For every grain lost, you must sacrifice a drop of your blood. The Empress swept away with her entourage, leaving Ronghui bleeding and broken on the ground, while the other concubines hurried away to avoid the Empress's wrath. But Liang Xi did not run. She walked back to the courtyard and knelt in the dirt beside her friend. I'll pick them up with you. You don't have to. The Empress will get mad at you, Ronghui sobbed, her tears falling onto the scattered grains. Liang Xi just smiled, her eyes resolute. At the very least, we can gather more of them so that your blood won't spill as much. As the two girls crawled across the stones, a shadow fell over them. Liang Xi looked up, see a handsome man in noble robes watching them from the garden. It's her? He thought, a curious smirk playing on his lips. Miss, he said aloud, stepping closer, if you want to help your friend, I would like to speak with you. Greetings, Your Royal Highness. My name is Liang Xi, she murmured, bowing her head as the petals drifted around them in the quiet garden. Prince Bomu Bogor smiled, his eyes twinkling with a charm that seemed far too practiced for someone so young. I came to the palace to visit my mother, but I happened upon the Empress punishing a court lady. Not wanting to intrude, I stayed out for a while and saw how loyal and considerate you were to your friends. I find that very appealing. My mother, Yijing Taifei, has many rice pearls. Why don't you follow me and take some to help your friend? Liang Xi's eyes widened in genuine surprise and relief. Really? That's a wonderful idea, but let me first thank you. As the two walked toward the inner chambers, they were unaware of the sharp, calculating eyes watching them from behind the blooming peonies. The court lady narrowed her gaze, a silent scheme already forming in her mind. Inside the Empress's quarters, the air was thick with tension and the smell of spilled tea. What? Not even a single piece is missing. The Empress roared, staring down at the bowl of red beans as if they had personally insulted her. Her servant bowed low, his voice a frantic whisper. Your Highness. When Mistress Keefe told this servant to observe, I saw the court lady Liang Xi secretly helping her. The Empress's face contorted into a mask of pure spite. Disgraceful? Go get Liang Xi right now. When the young woman was hauled before her, the Empress leaned in close, her teeth bared. It makes me so angry having to look at your despicable face. She snatched a golden hairstick from her locks, the sharp point glinting dangerously. Why don't I just use this to wreck your face? Your Highness, you can't do that. A maid gasped, catching the Empress's wrist. If the Emperor and Empress Dowager found out you disfigured a court lady, you would be punished. Why don't you just paint her face instead? The Empress cackled, reaching for a calligraphy brush. Humph. I've been good at this since childhood. 3 cat whiskers on the left, 3 on the right, and the character for king on her forehead. Now she looks like a white tiger demon. You are not allowed to wash this for 30 days, or I'll redraw it. Let's see how you can seduce the Emperor now. Exhausted by her own malice, the Empress swept out of the room. Humph, I'm tired. Both of you leave my sight and think about your mistakes. Liang Xi's friend wept, clutching her hands. Big sister, it's all my fault. But Liang Xi only offered a small, ink-stained smile. No problem. The Empress' idea is very unique. She squeezed her friend's hand tightly. Little sister, as long as we endure, everything will be well. Besides, Prince Xiang was kind to us today. Meanwhile, in the grand audience chamber, the Empress Dowager looked at her son with a mother's piercing concern. Your Majesty, aren't you going to see the court ladies? For the purpose of producing an heir, you should see them. Emperor Shunqi sighed, his white hair catching the light as he turned away. Mother, political matters are worrisome, so I do not have the time. A few years ago, a Tibetan monk lent me a sacred Buddhist book, but the 7-colored knot on it was untied by the bookkeeper. It is a secret technique, and even the palace seamstresses have no idea what to do. It affects the dignity of my empire. The Empress Dowager leaned back, a clever spark in her eye. Meeting the court ladies may improve your mood. Tell me, what if they were the ones to solve this knot? Shunqi paused, his fingers tapping against his chin. That's a great idea. Mother, those court ladies shouldn't sit around all day. How about letting them think of an idea for the 7-colored knot? A mischievous smirk played on his lips. If one of them can solve the problem, I might think about giving them the title of consort. The decree was immediate. An official stood before the assembled ladies, pointing to a complex diagram. This is the 7-colored knot. Let's see who can make a knot similar to the drawing. Helping the Emperor and the Empire. Laughter erupted from the back of the room as the other ladies caught sight of Liang Xi. Ha! Her face still hasn't been washed. Now that she looks so ugly, there's one less competitor. Liang Xi ignored the jeers, her eyes fixed on the colored strings. 7-colored knot. Although it seems complicated, it's similar to the design Mother taught me, she whispered to herself. Her fingers moved with a rhythmic, practiced grace, weaving the strands until she finally held the completed work aloft. The knot is done. What? She did it. The other ladies hissed in disbelief, but their gossip was silenced by a sudden, booming announcement. The Emperor is here. The ladies dropped to their knees in a sea of silk. Greetings to your Majesty. Whispers of he's too handsome, and I can't wait to be a consort, rippled through the ranks. But Liang Xi's heart stopped. As she looked up at the man in the dragon robes, her blood ran cold. It's him? The man from the cave? Shunqi paced the room until he stopped directly in front of her. This court lady, what happened to your face? The Emperor is asking you a question. A eunuch barked. Liang Xi lowered her head, her voice trembling. Your Majesty, this court lady has committed a crime, so the Empress personally drew this. Shunqi frowned, a look of distaste crossing his features. The Empress is tactless. Take her to have it cleaned, it's disgraceful to the royal family. As Liang Xi washed the ink away, the weight of her situation hit her. Was Yu Yan trying to use me to murder the Emperor that night? Fear gripped her. I cannot let the Emperor recognize me. I shouldn't tell anyone I made the knot either. She turned to the eunuch with a feigned cough. Sir, I feel ill. Can you help me tell the Emperor? I don't think I can go back. Back in the hall, Shunqi looked at the empty tables. So? Did anyone make a knot? Seizing the moment, Lady Nuhulu Yuzi lunged for the knot Liang Xi had left behind, pinching the other lady's hands to keep them back. Your Majesty, Court Lady Nuhulu Yuzi has successfully made the 7-colored knot. The newly promoted woman smirked at her rivals as she was carried away on a palanquin. The other ladies could only seethe. Tch. Look at the way she's sitting, like she owns the place. Under the cover of night, Liang Xi found Yu Yan. Yu Yan, you must tell me the truth. Why did you use me to harm the Emperor? Yu Yan laughed. A cold, sharp sound. Harm the emperor? You've gone insane. Your mother was a prostitute who stole my father's affection. I sold you to the Jade Red House to pay her debt. Liang Xi's eyes filled with tears as the truth shattered her. I was sold to a brothel, then bought by someone else to use against the emperor. If he recognizes me, even my father will be executed. I have to escape the palace. High above on the roof, a figure clad in black watched Liang Xi's breakdown with narrowed eyes. The next morning, the new consort Ronghu arrived with a cruel smile. I came here today to resolve some old issues. Dong Yi Liang Xi. She leaned down, her voice dripping with venom. Do you remember when we first entered the palace? What do you think would be a suitable punishment for you? Liang Xi saw her chance. I will lower my status and become a palace maid. I promise to never see the emperor or pursue him. The court ladies gasped. Is she crazy? But Ronghua laughed. Good. Someone tell the empress that Dong Yi Liang Xi is now going to be a palace maid. She pointed toward the fallen leaves. Go and sweep those. Ha ha! Days later, the emperor stretched as he walked through the gardens. So tiring. Every morning I have to speak to those oldies and deal with court business. He stopped suddenly. Huh? Butterflies? A woman was dancing amidst a cloud of blue wings, her fans snapping open like golden petals. It was Ronghua, her face painted with a seductive smirk as she spun for his attention. I was worried the emperor would be exhausted, so I performed this dance to lighten your mood. In the bushes, the empress was fuming. What? She dares to use dancing to seduce the emperor. I'm so mad. But Shunji only watched Ronghua with a cold, bored expression. As she reached out to touch his face, he caught her chin with 2 fingers. Although you performed well last time, I can't say you've met the standards this time. Continue to perform. He turned on his heel and walked away, leaving her dancing for no one. That thief. The empress hissed from her hiding spot. I can dance so much better than she can. Tomorrow, I'll dance for the emperor too. The next day, the empress gathered her confused maids. You, stand there and sing. We begin when the emperor returns. She pulled a strange, glowing device from her robes, a magical box from her friend. Never mind, I'll just do it and sing. Shunji arrived, stopping in his tracks. That is, the empress. What followed was a nightmare of sound and motion. The empress began to jerk her body in a bizarre, frantic dance. She yelled. The magical box blared a repetitive, nonsensical rhythm. She threw her head back, shrieking lyrics that sounded like gibberish to the imperial court. She spun in circles, her maids following along with terrified expressions. The emperor and his eunuch stood frozen, their mouths hanging open in pure, unadulterated horror. Greetings, your highness. The empress finally chirped, dropping into a bow as if she had just delivered a masterpiece. I heard that the emperor was busy, so I have prepared a dance for his majesty. Yu Yan chirped, her eyes sparkling with calculated charm as she preened before the young ruler. The emperor, however, barely looked up, his hand pressed against his mouth in a stifled yawn. Why is everyone doing the same thing? He muttered, his voice dripping with aristocratic boredom. All right, I understand that you're trying to make me feel better, but please go back. He commanded, waving a dismissive hand as Yu Yan's face fell into a mask of comedic shock. Emperor, don't you want me to dance for you a bit longer? She wailed, her hands flailing in a desperate bid for attention while her attendants watched in silent judgment. No need. I'm busy, the heir stated flatly, turning his back on her without a second thought. Farewell, your majesty. Yu Yan began to retreat, but his voice suddenly cut through the air again. Wait, what's your name? She straightened instantly, her eyes widening. Emperor, I am one of the potential new concubines who enter the court, Dong Yi Yu Yan, she replied, her voice regaining its honeyed edge. The emperor studied her for a moment, a small, intrigued smile playing on his lips. Your singing is very unique. She was practically vibrating with vanity, her heart racing as she stared at the handsome sovereign. In a few days, I'll stop by to talk about pitches. The emperor continued, his gaze lingering. Remember to prepare a new performance for me. Yes, but I'm still a potential concubine who lives with the other girls. Yen reminded him, her voice trailing off suggestively. Yes, that's true, the emperor mused. Near the imperial garden there is a residence known as the Unvoiced Pavilion. Why don't you move in there? Yu Yen collapsed into a deep, theatrical bow, her forehead nearly touching the stone. Thank you, your majesty. Thank you, your majesty. May the emperor live prosperously. Inside, she was screaming with joy, convinced she was finally flying high. But as soon as the emperor was out of earshot, her gratitude vanished. She turned on Liang Xi, her hand swinging in a flurry of blows. Hit! 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 She shrieked, striking at the girl in a fit of inexplicable rage. So were you using me to your advantage? Yu Yan barked, pointing a trembling finger at the bewildered Liang Xi. I wouldn't dare, Liang Xi cried, cowering on the ground. Thank you for letting me sing. I would never take advantage of Her Majesty. Mf. Yu Yan tossed her head back, marching away with her nose in the air while Liang Xi watched her go, stunned by the sudden cruelty. The change in status was immediate. While Yu Yan was carried through the palace in a golden palanquin, looking down on the world with a smug, satisfied smirk, the servants were ordered to scramble. Hurry! Take your possessions and move them! A manager barked at the lower-ranking girls. Yu Yan didn't miss the chance to twist the knife. As her palanquin passed Liang Xi, she peered over Fan. Oh? So we meet again. Greetings, Miss Dong Yixiao Yai. The elder servant greeted using Yu Yan's new lofty title. Yu Yan's eyes narrowed with malice. I think God knows who's cheap and who isn't. That's why I became a noble imperial concubine, and you're only a lowly thief. She swept past with a final, haughty humph, leaving Liang Xi staring at the dust. So fast, Liang Xi thought sadly. Yu Yan already became Dong Yixiao Yai? The reality of Liang Xi's new life was a cold, damp shock. You'll be living in this room, the manager announced, throwing open a door. Liang Xi stepped inside, clutching her meager bundle, only to be met by the glares of 3 other maids. What? This room is already small, and now someone else is going to live here too? One of them snapped. Go! Go! Lay your stuff by the door! They commanded, shoving her aside. As night fell, Liang Xi sat alone on the edge of a hard bed, listening to them whisper. I heard that she's that disgraced potential concubine. The madam said that we don't have to show her any kindness. Staring at the moon through the window, Liang Xi sighed. I didn't know that things would turn out like this. The next morning brought no relief. New person, clean from here to that mountain. One of the maids ordered, pointing toward a massive pile of carved rock in the distance. Huh? Liang Xi gasped. So much. If you don't finish, then you won't eat lunch. The maid threatened, walking away with a cruel chuckle. Hee hee. We should make her do all of our work. The bullies whispered to each other as they watched her struggle. By the time the sun was high, Liang Xi was leaning on her broom, wiping sweat from her brow. So tiring, she whispered. In the dining hall, the other maids feasted on bowls of steaming food. We don't have much food today, so just eat your bread, one said, tossing a single, hard bun onto the table. Liang Xi stood alone in the courtyard, staring down at the meager meal. This bread is so cold. She thought, her heart heavy as she returned to her endless sweeping. Sister, a voice called out. Liang Xi spun around, her eyes widening. It's you. Ronghui stepped out from behind the bushes, a small wooden box in her hands. Sister, I secretly came to see you. Ronghui whispered, glancing around nervously. The Empress Dowager bestowed some sweets to the potential concubines today, so I came to give you some of mine. Sister, your body is weak. I'm worried that you don't have enough to eat here. Ronghui added, her eyes full of genuine concern. It's fine. I'm all right. Liang Xi replied, her voice cracking. Ronghui, thank you. But the moment of warmth was shattered the very next day. Doenji Elian Jacksai, a voice screamed. The manager stood in the courtyard, flanked by the 3 bullying maids. How dare you steal? One of the maids held up the wooden box. I found this by her pillow. Liang Xi's heart hammered against her ribs. The box of sweets. My friend gave that to me. You're still lying? The maid spat. I just asked Mr. Chang and he said that some sweets were missing from the kitchen, so it must have been you. The manager's face contorted with rage. In that case, make her kneel there and slap her too. Let's see if she confesses. No, I'm innocent. Liang Xi cried as the maids grabbed her arms, forcing her down. Kneel, they barked. One of the maids stepped forward, a vicious smirk on her face. Look at that innocent face. Do you still think you're a potential concubine who has a chance of seeing the emperor? Slap. The sound echoed through the courtyard as Liang Xi's head snapped to the side. You should wake up then. You're even lower than us. Slap, slap, slap. Blood began to trickle from the corner of Liang Xi's mouth as she endured the humiliation in silence. Halt. A commanding voice thundered. The maids froze, their hands suspended in midair. A young man in noble black and gold robes stood before them, his green eyes flashing with cold fury. What crime did she commit exactly? Greetings, Your Highness. The maids stammered, dropping to their knees. Your Highness, she stole some sweets from the kitchen. Prince Xiang stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Sweets. I sent someone to give them to her. He lied smoothly, his eyes never leaving the trembling Liang Xi. What? The maids gasped in unison. Your manager must have been mistaken. Prince Xiang snapped. Scram, explain the situation properly. If you blame other innocent people, don't blame me for going to court and putting you all into punishment rooms. He warned as the bullies scrambled away in a panic. The prince turned to Liang Xi, his voice softening. Sorry for being late. You must have suffered. He reached out a hand to help her up. Thank you, Your Highness. Liang Xi whispered, her cheeks flushing a deep pink. Your Highness, thank you for taking responsibility. For the box of sweets. But aren't you troubling yourself by shielding a bad person? Prince Xiang looked at her, a gentle smile touching his lips. I don't think you would do such a thing, he said firmly. I believe that from the first time I saw you. Liang Xi was speechless, her heart fluttering. Oh, right. I heard that you asked to become a palace maid, the prince noted. Don't you still want to become an imperial concubine? I think being a palace maid is pretty nice. She stammered, looking at the ground. Prince Xiang stepped closer, his gaze intense. Don't try to hide it. I can already guess what you're really feeling. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. If you want to leave and live your life freely, I could probably help you with that. Really? Liang Xi breathed. When the time comes, I can help you escape from the palace, he promised. Meanwhile, in the unvoiced pavilion, the atmosphere was far less noble. Yu Yan was frantically clicking at the magic box. Does your magic box really only sing 3 songs? She demanded of a sweating Fucha Qingning. Yes, but before I time traveled, I accidentally deleted the other songs. Qingning stammered. This is really upsetting. Yu Yan growled, her thumb hovering over the screen. Click, click. Suddenly, the screen flickered and went dark. What happened to the magic box? Not good. There's no more battery, so it turned off, Qingning cried, her face pale. Since we're in ancient times, there is no way to charge it. We can't use it anymore. I don't understand what you mean. Is it broken? Yu Yan shrieked, her face turning a shade of angry red. Yes. Qingning wailed. How hateful. Yu Yan roared, her hands raised like claws. Just then, a servant entered. Sir Liang is here. Yu Yan snapped her head toward him. This servant greets Mistress Dong Yi, the man said, bowing low. The emperor told this servant to deliver a message. The Empress Dowager will come here tomorrow afternoon to talk about music with Mistress. Mistress should prepare in advance. The emperor. Yu Yan's eyes turned into hearts, a bit of drool escaping her lip as she fantasized about him. Yes, she managed to say, wiping her mouth as the servant left. But as soon as the door closed, panic set in. What to do? What to do? What to do? She screamed, clutching her head. She rounded on Qingning. Don't look at me. I can't sing or play any instruments. The pink-haired girl whimpered. Go back and think of a new idea. If not, you'll be punished, Yu Yan ordered, sending her scurrying away. Alone, Yu Yan paced the room, her brow furrowed. What do? I can't rely on the magic box, and Fucha Qingning can't seem to help me. Who can help me? Her eyes narrowed. Now that I think about it, Liang Xi was quite musically talented during the practice. That despicable servant, down by the palace stream, Liang Xi was lost in her own world, the sound of her broom rhythmic against the stone. Can I really believe the words that Prince Xiang said that day? She stopped, looking up at the vibrant red maple leaves framing the clear water. What a beautiful scenery, she whispered. She watched a leaf tumble into the current. These maple leaves fall in their most beautiful state and disappear into the stream. A sense of peace washed over her. Only I can see this beauty. It's like this place belongs to me alone. Impulsively, she took a long pin from her hair and began to carefully etch characters into a fallen leaf. Let's write a poem so as not to waste this beautiful scenery. She worked with delicate focus, pouring her heart into the wood pulp skin. When she was finished, she gently placed the leaf on the water and watched it float away, a silent message to the world. A short time later, Emperor Shunji wandered into the same garden, his white hair catching the sunlight. I'm so tired from reviewing those imperial scrolls. Escort me to a peaceful place, he commanded his servant. He paused by the water's edge. The water here is very clear. Stay, I'm going near the stream. As he leaned over the bank, something red caught his eye. He reached into the water, his fingers brushing against a maple leaf. There are words on this leaf. He read the inscription aloud, his voice soft. All that is beautiful cannot stay. The fading spring complains of fall. Like spinning tomos the autumn leaves descend, all like a painting that the jade green clouds shall keep. A genuine smile broke across his face. There are actually some amusing people in the palace, he mused. Your poem inspired me. He turned to his attendant. Liang, give me the brush that you always carry around with you. He knelt by the water, his brush moving with fluid grace as he wrote a response on another leaf. He looked up the stream, his eyes searching the rocks. It should have floated down from here, but the banks were empty save for the rustling leaves. It seems that we're not fated to meet today. He whispered, a hint of disappointment in his voice. Oh well, I'll just leave my poem here. If we're fated to meet, then he or she will surely find it. He stood up, his cape billowing in the wind as he walked away. If we're not destined to meet, we'll never meet, no matter what. Let's think of today as a dream. That night, the emperor sat in his private chambers, the moon hanging full and bright outside. He held the original leaf in his hand, his gaze distant and thoughtful. He carefully placed it inside a golden silk pouch embroidered with a dragon, cherishing the mystery of the unknown poet. The next morning, Liang Xi returned to the stream. She knelt by the water, and her eyes widened as she saw a leaf caught in the rocks, a leaf with fresh ink. She read the response, her breath catching. The morning scenery wrongs the autumn leaves, while the moon diminishes the green moss. As I brood upon the nothing I have, I sit in melancholy by the jade gukin. Who wrote this? She wondered, her heart thumping. There's actually someone with the same thoughts as me in this palace. She clutched the leaf to her chest, a soft smile lighting up her face. Perhaps I will never know who they are. But this miracle is enough to warm my heart throughout this season. Donji Liang Xi. Concert Donji wants to see you. A voice boomed, shattering her reverie. Ah! Liang Xi gasped, quickly hiding the leaf. She was led into the opulent chambers of the unvoiced pavilion, where Yu Yan sat on a high throne. All of you leave. I wish to speak with her alone, Yu Yan commanded the other maids. Once they were alone, Yu Yan's expression shifted from cold to calculating. Take a look at this, she said, tossing a folded paper onto the table. A letter from father? Liang, she asked, her hands trembling as she opened it. The letter was a mixture of comfort and pressure. To my daughter, Liang Xi, everyone in the residence, including me, are doing well. Your mother is feeling ill, so I've decided to bring her to Jing earlier than expected. Remember my words. Always help Yu Yan, because she is your sister. Liang Xi looked up, her eyes wet. Do you know who allowed father to bring your mother to Jing? Yu Yan asked, leaning forward. I did, Yu Yan declared with a sharp, triumphant look. Liang Xi was stunned. Yu Yan, didn't she despise me and mother? Liang Xi, let's make a deal, Yu Yan said, her voice dropping into a low, dangerous purr. I've always hated you and your mother, because you two owe me so much. Now I'm giving you a chance to repay that debt. She stood up, her silk robes rustling. I need you to help me. If you do, I will forget all of my hatred towards you. And I'll let your mother have a title allowing her to become father's wife with honor. Liang Xi's breath hitched. Really? What do I have to do to help? Yu Yan leaned in, a predatory smile spreading across her face. I need you to help me become the emperor's favorite concubine. She hissed. The most adored of all concubines. The scene opens with the heavy atmosphere of a gilded cage as consort Dong Yi Yu Yan leans in, her voice a silk-wrapped blade. Liang Xi, if you use all of your wits, this won't be difficult, right? Yu Yan asks, her hand resting with feigned affection on the girl's shoulder. When my wish comes true, I will personally give mother a title. So, do you agree? Liang Xi closes her eyes, the weight of her mother's safety crushing any spark of rebellion. Fine. She whispers, I agree. Yu Yan's lips curl into a triumphant smile. Very well. Starting today, you are one of my palace maids. However, you must remember one thing. No matter how much the emperor favors me, you must not let him know of your existence. Don't worry, Liang Xi replies, her gaze hollow. I also don't want him to see me. Good, Yu Yan says, turning away with a flourish of her robes. From today onwards, put in a lot more effort and help me gain the emperor's favor. Don't forget that I have a lot of loyal servants at home. Your mother's well-being depends on your performance. The scene shifts to the bustling corridors of the palace, where whispers travel faster than the wind. Where did that Dong Yi Liang Xi go? One maid asks while sweeping the courtyard. Didn't you hear? Consort Dong Yi took her away. Someone from Qin Yin Pavilion already helped her pack her stuff. The sound of a distant herald's cry echoes through the imperial grounds. His Majesty has arrived. The servants drop to their knees in a synchronized wave of silk and submission. This servant greets your Majesty. They chorus as the Emperor Shunshi strides into the hall, his white hair shimmering like moonlight. He stops, looking around the empty reception area. Why isn't your mistress here to greet me? Your Majesty, the mistress. She's at the water pavilion, a maid stammers, keeping her head low. She said that she wanted your Majesty to go there alone. Shunji raises an eyebrow, a spark of genuine curiosity breaking through his habitual boredom. Oh, very well. Stay and don't follow me. The Emperor's boots click softly against the stone path as he approaches the pavilion, surrounded by the gentle lapping of water and the scent of blooming lotuses. The ethereal sound of a gukin begins to drift across the lake, accompanied by a voice like pure crystal. Wades into the river to pick the blooming lotuses, the voice sings. I can see the many fragrant flora of the riverbanks. Yet without anyone for whom to leave this flower, I find myself locked in distant yearning. Shunji pauses by the water's edge, listening intently. The ethereal melody of the gukin and the natural, refined voice. He muses. This tone is different from last time. It's as if there are multiple people singing at once. The only similarity is the singer's talent, as she's able to make such swift and unexpected changes to the music. He finds a chair prepared for him, laden with fresh fruit. Was this prepared for me? He settles into the seat, watching the silhouette in the pavilion. This song glides across the water, as if borrowing the sound from the wind. Only a thoughtful person can play such a melody. The song continues, growing more melancholic. Still, I long for my former home. The arduous road is long and vast. Two hearts as one, yet they live apart. Shunji leans his head on his hand, his sharp eyes narrowing. As expected, Dong Yu Yan isn't as simple as she seems. The camera pans behind a decorative screen inside the pavilion, revealing the truth. While Yu Yan sits prominently, miming the motions of the guqin, Liang Xi is hidden in the shadows, her finger flying across the strings with masterful precision. As the final note fades, Liang Xi rests her hands on the wood. The song has finished. She thinks, her heart hammering against her ribs. My plan was to help Yu Yan perform over the water, so that the emperor won't notice any mistakes. Yu Yan stands and glides toward the emperor, her face a mask of practiced grace. It looks like it was a success, she thinks, catching the look of intrigue on his face. She bows deeply. Your Majesty, please forgive my lateness in paying you my respect. You have a true musical talent, Shunji says, his voice smooth and unreadable. Your performance over water made me feel as if I was in another world listening to a heavenly music. Yu Yan's heart soars. Ha ha ha. It's a success. But aloud she murmurs, Your Majesty, you are too generous. No need for curtsy, Shunji says, reaching out. Rise and speak. He takes her hand in his, and for a moment, Yu Yan's world spins. Your Majesty, just now the emperor took my hand. She gazes up at him, her eyes turning into literal hearts in her excitement. And he's even more handsome up close. Why is my heart beating so fast? I have never felt this way before. No, I'm going to fall. Shunji, oblivious to her internal meltdown, continues the conversation. Your performance was excellent. It seems that you are very knowledgeable in music. Yu Yan snaps back to reality, nodding eagerly. I frequently read guqin pieces as well, Shunji says conversationally. Recently, I read The Godly Treasure from Beyond Dusk from the Manual of the Mysterious and Marvelous. My favorite piece from it was Forgotten. Yu Yan's smile freezes. What are those pieces? I don't understand. Shunji looks at her expectantly. What do you think of them? Yu Yan screams internally as lightning bolts of panic strike her mind. Heavens, what does this mean? Do I have to confess my lies? What's wrong? Shunji asks, his gaze sharpening. No, nothing. Yu Yan stammers, a bead of sweat rolling down her temple. If this goes on, I'll be exposed, I know. She tries to pivot the conversation. Your Majesty, you see, perhaps they are lotus lanterns? But why do they have the scent of real lotus? Later, after the emperor has departed, Liang Xi steps out from behind the screen, her expression wary. Yu Yan turns on her immediately, huffing with indignation. Oh yeah, the emperor said that he liked some sort of looking chicken or short chicken. I didn't understand it at all. That was so close. Liang Xi blinks, suppressed amusement in her eyes. Forgotten? It's a guqin piece. It tells a tale of a flying crane that forgets the troubles of this world for an instant. All right. No one wants to listen to your book rambling. Yu Yan snaps, her face turning red. I want you to be more careful next time in covering it up. I have to bring the incense to the emperor tomorrow, so help me make something that will please him. Yes, Liang Xi replies softly. But as she watches Yu Yan walk away, her thoughts drift. Forgotten. That ancient guqin piece is my favorite song. Does the emperor like it too? I have an idea. The next day, outside the emperor's private training hall. Sir, is the emperor inside? Asks concubine Nui Lu, known as Rongua, as she arrives with a tray of food. The emperor is practicing swordsmanship and has ordered us to let anyone disturb him. The eunuch replies nervously. Oh, even me? Ronghua bristles, gesturing to her tray. I personally prepared a stew for the emperor, so go inform him. Just then, Yu Yan arrives, looking radiant. Sir, please inform the emperor that I have brought him a perfume pouch. Inside the courtyard, the sound of a blade whistling through the air rings out. Shunji moves with lethal grace, his sword a blur of silver. Who is making such a ruckus outside? He demands, coming to a halt. Sire, it is Nui Lu Yuzi, a eunuch reports. She said that she had prepared some stew for the emperor and wished to personally deliver it to you. How annoying. Shunji sighs, wiping sweat from his brow. Tell her that I don't want to eat her food, and that she should just go back to her residence. Yes. Also, Your Majesty, the eunuch adds tentatively, Dong Yi Xiao Yi wanted to give you this perfume pouch. She said that you were the one who requested it. Shunji pauses, his interest piqued. Huh? He takes the pouch, turning it over in his hand. It is exquisitely made, featuring a delicately embroidered lotus. Such a skillfully sewn perfume pouch. He brings it to his nose and his eyes widen slightly. It really is the scent of lotus. The fragrance of blooming lotuses hung heavy in the air, a sweetness so cloying it bordered on the impossible. Emperor Shunji leaned in, his silver hair catching the light as he interrogated the young woman before him. How can they smell so sweet, like a lotus? Don't tell me the lotuses are made from yarn? Yu Yan offered a demure smile, though internally she praised Liang Xi's cleverness for suggesting she hide lotus incense deep in the fabric petals. The emperor's eyes narrowed with genuine interest as he commanded, prepare this kind of fragrance for me someday, before turning on his heel to depart, leaving Yu Yan to offer a deep, victorious bow. Back in the safety of the Qingdian pavilion, Yu Yan's composure shattered into a jubilant dance, her fists pumped in the air as she shouted to Liang Xi. We've won the fight. His Majesty really likes those lotus fragrances. She paused, her brow furrowing as she tried to recall the Emperor's more intellectual ramblings. Oh, right, just now His Majesty told me about this, and that… something about Wang Ji? Liang Xi didn't miss a beat, explaining with calm precision that it was a piece of Guqin music from the Xiaowai Shen pin, symbolizing a bird forgetting the world while in flight. Yu Yan's eyes rolled back in her head, her brain already overtaxed by the explanation. All right. You don't have to tell me any more, she groaned, dismissing the lesson with a wave of her hand. Outside the Emperor's private quarters, the air was thick with a different kind of tension. Lady Ronghua stood tall, her jaw set as she glared at the eunuch blocking her path with a tray of soup. What? Even I can't get in? She snapped, her voice rising in pitch. I personally made some soup for His Majesty. The eunuch remained unmoved, even as Yu Yan strolled past with a smug smirk, holding a delicate, fragrant bag. Jianfei greets Ronghua, Yu Yan chirped, her voice dripping with false sweetness as she handed the bag to the guard, claiming the Emperor had requested it personally. Inside, the sound of a blade whistling through the air punctuated the Emperor's frustration. He swung his sword in a blur of white and red, his voice a sharp bark of command. Who's being so loud out there? When the eunuch tentatively explained that Lady Ronghua was insisting on delivering soup, Shunji didn't even break his stance. What a bother. Tell her that I do not want to eat her soup, and leave this place. However, his expression shifted the moment the eunuch presented the small, embroidered sachet from the Jianfei. He took the bag, the scent of fresh lotuses instantly calming his frayed nerves. It's indeed the lotus fragrance that I smelled yesterday, he murmured, turning the silk over in his hands. His eyes caught the elegant calligraphy stitched onto the back a poem about a bird free of worldly concerns, passing through the city with a keen eye. A slow, thoughtful smile spread across his face as he realized this was the very concept of Wang Ji he had mentioned. This poem is truly my cup of tea, he whispered, though a seed of doubt remained. I asked her about this poem yesterday, but she didn't seem to know about it. Yet today, he turned to his attendant, Xiao Liangzi, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial low. Relay my message. The message arrived like a thunderclap in the palace gardens, where Yu Yan was currently enduring a blistering verbal assault from a humiliated Ronghua. Who would have thought that even the Ronghua didn't get chosen? Yu Yan taunted, her eyes sparkling with malice. Ronghua's face contorted into a mask of pure rage, her teeth bared like a cornered animal. Such boldness. How dare you insult me? She stepped forward, her hand raised high. Kneel down. I'll have to smack that face of yours. But before the blow could land, a herald's voice rang out. An imperial edict has arrived. The two women dropped to their knees as the official read the emperor's decree. Dong Yu Yan was to be promoted to the third rank of concubine, granted the title of Jiu, and gifted 100 taels of gold. Yu Yan's face lit up with a triumphant glow as she touched her forehead to the ground. Thank you, sir. Long live the emperor. The official smiled kindly, gesturing for her to rise. Dong Yu Yan, please follow me to thank the emperor. He's waiting for you. Yan didn't miss the opportunity to twist the knife. She leaned toward the trembling, weeping Ronghua, a wicked glint in her eyes. Hey, didn't you just say that my rank is lowly and want to teach me a lesson? She whispered, her voice a poisonous honey. Why don't you do it now, huh? Are you scared now? Ronghua could only stutter in shock as Yu Yan straightened her robes. In a blink of an eye, my rank surpassed yours. So tell me, how am I supposed to punish you? With a final haughty toss of her head, Yu Yan marched toward the inner palace, leaving her rival in the dust. Upon entering the emperor's presence, Yu Yan instantly donned a mask of exaggerated humility, kneeling low with a practiced grace. Shunji looked down at her, his expression unreadable. You may rise, he said simply. I really like the fragrant bag that you made. Not only does it have a good scent, but it also has a good poem to it. Yu Yan bowed her head, playing the part of the modest scholar. Your Majesty flatters me. Yu Yan just knows a little bit, that's all. The emperor's eyes twinkled with a sudden mischievous light. Oh, then I have a poem for you. I want to know how you feel about it. He recited a haunting verse about fading spring and autumn leaves, his voice melodic and full of hidden meaning. Yu Yan stared at him, her mind a complete blank. Damn, I don't get it at all, she screamed internally. Desperate, she gambled on flattery. The poem is so good. Your Majesty is an unparalleled genius. The emperor's face fell instantly. Huh? His gaze turned piercing, cold as ice. You've never heard of this poem before? Yu Yan's heart hammered against her ribs as she stammered. It's not a poem that your Majesty just wrote. Shunji sighed, the spark of interest extinguished. Forget it then, he muttered, turning away. He dismissed her with a wave of his hand, warning her that many would come to congratulate her on her promotion. As she left, he looked down at the fragrant bag, his suspicion growing. The poem on the red leaf was a masterpiece from the Tang dynasty. But she doesn't know it? He gripped the silk tightly. This Dong Yu Yan is truly strange. Everything she does is different, but when I face her, it's like she's a completely different person. That night, beneath a moon shrouded in clouds, a shadowy figure in a heavy cloak met with a woman dressed in the black garb of an assassin. "You came," the woman whispered. The master's voice was low and dangerous as he asked if anyone had noticed her. They spoke of Liang Xi, now hidden in plain sight as a maid to the newly titled Jiu. Jiu Dongyi is Liang Xi's sister, the master noted, his eyes narrowing. She probably gained the emperor's favor due to Liang Xi helping her behind the scenes. How hateful. Frustration boiled over, and the master hurled a stone into the palace pond with a violent splash. The woman in black watched him, her silhouette sharp against the moonlight as the ripples spread. "Master," she breathed, her voice trembling. The master turned on her, his face a mask of cold fury. "You still have time to worry about this." Tears welled in the woman's eyes. "I've been in the palace for so long, but I've yet to gain any favor," she sobbed. "How will you aid me in my plans?" The master showed no mercy, looming over her as she knelt in the dirt. "I'm so useless," she cried, but he cut her off with a snarl. "Do you even have the right to decide who you like or dislike?" He grabbed her arm, pulling her close, his voice a low hiss of ambition. "If you like me, you should help me achieve my goal. Fulin will return everything that should have been mine." He stared into the darkness of the gardens. "Even after following me for so long, you still haven't learned what it is that I desire?" The woman bowed her head, her resolve hardening. "I was wrong. I will do my best to not disappoint you." While shadows plotted in the dark, Lady Manhwa was busy with a more primitive form of malice. In her private chamber, she gripped a small cloth doll labeled with Yu Yan's name, driving thick needles into its chest with savage delight. "I will stab you to death," she hissed, her face twisted in a manic grin. She was interrupted by her loyal servant, Uncle Chang, who bowed low. Rong Hu threw the doll aside, her eyes burning. "Never in my life have I received such humiliation. What right does she have to be thought of so highly by the emperor himself?" Uncle Chang offered a cold, calculating smile. "Mistress, you shouldn't rush. Just stay calm and think of a good plan." A few days later, the trap was set. Yu Yan sat before her mirror, preparing for the upcoming Plum Blossoms Festival. "I want to stand out at the festival," she told Liang Xi. "Help me think of ways to make those despicable women feel worthless." A maid approached with a golden basin of water. "Master, it's time to wash your face." Yu Yan reached out her hands, but Liang Xi's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. "Wait." Yu Yan blinked in surprise as Liang Xi leaned over the water. "There's something wrong with the water," the maid whispered, her eyes sharp. She pointed to the liquid, noting that it looked turbid and carried a strange chemical scent. "Don't wash your face yet. Let me try it first." Liang Xi dipped her fingers into the water, and a sickening sizzle filled the room. She let out a sharp cry of pain, pulling her hand back as the skin began to redden and blister. "It hurts," she gasped. Yu Yan stared in horror as Liang Xi identified the toxin. "There have been rumors about a powder called shigufen that can make a person's skin rot. It's probably this." Yu Yan's face went pale, then flushed with a murderous rage. "So someone wants to harm me and ruin my appearance." She spun around and delivered a stinging slap to the maid who had brought the basin. "You dare defy me? Who ordered you?" The maid fell to the floor, sobbing and pleading her innocence. Liang Xi, clutching her burned hand, whispered a tactical suggestion. "Pretend you didn't wash your face yet. Have your most trusted person check the servant's nails instead." By the morning of the second day, the culprit had been found. "Thanks to you, the maid who added the powder has been caught," Yu Yan told Liang Xi, who now wore a heavy bandage on her hand. "It was a girl named King Er, sent by the imperial household only days prior. She has been sent to the punishment division," Liang Xi reported. "Let's see who she testifies as the mastermind." But Yu Yan's focus had already shifted back to her vanity. "I still have to participate in the Plum Blossoms Festival later," she mused. "Have you thought of any good ideas yet?" Liang Xi presented a tray holding a garment of the most vibrant, shocking red. "Red is indeed the most gorgeous color," Yu Yan exclaimed, her eyes widening with delight. She imagined herself against the white snow, a singular flame of beauty. "I must be the prettiest," she declared, posing before the mirror. But Liang Xi watched her with a strange, unreadable expression. "Don't wear red," she said softly, though Yu Yan was too far gone in her fantasies to listen. As Liang Xi began to apply Yu Yan's makeup, her movements were stiff, and sweat beaded on her forehead despite the winter chill. Yu Yan noticed the trembling in her maid's bandaged hand. "Does your hand still hurt?" she asked, a rare note of genuine concern in her voice. "It's nothing," Liang Xi replied, her eyes focused on the calm. Yu Yan looked at her reflection, seeing the silent intensity in Liang Xi's gaze. "Why don't you teach me how to do the hairstyle so I can do it myself?" Liang Xi offered a small, sad smile. "It's all right, I'm almost finished." She stood behind her mistress, the two of them framed by the ornate mirror, a pair bound by secrets and a looming storm. The Plum Blossoms Festival opened with a fanfare that echoed through the snowy gardens. A rival concubine arrived first, draped in a magnificent red cloak, her laughter ringing out. "What a beautiful scenery! But it's still not as beautiful as me." "Ha ha!" Her laughter died in her throat as she rounded the corner. "Ah!" Her eyes bulged in shock, her face turning a ghostly pale. "How despicable! They're all wearing the same color as me," she shrieked, Standing amidst the blossoms was a sea of women, every single one of them dressed in the exact same shade of brilliant, defiant red. In the distance, the herald's voice announced the final arrival. His Majesty has arrived. The Empress Dowager has arrived. The winter air was crisp, the scent of frost mingling with the anticipation of the imperial court as they wandered the frozen gardens. I don't know if they have bloomed yet or not, the emperor mused, his voice trailing over the snow. So how about we go to see them? Behind him, the concubines whispered in hushed, hurried tones, their colorful silks a stark contrast to the white landscape. We haven't even seen the red plum blossoms yet. One grumbled under her breath. But His Majesty is already looking for white plum blossoms? Her companion nudged her sharply, eyes fixed on the emperor's retreating back. That doesn't matter, so just follow him. Suddenly, the emperor came to a halt, pointing toward a jagged rock formation. We're here! But as they rounded the corner, the sight before them stole the breath from the entire party. Standing amidst the swirling snow was a woman who seemed carved from the winter itself, her white cloak blending in the drifts as she held a spray of blossoms. Someone's already here? The emperor whispered, his eyes narrowing intrigue. It's Dong Eju, he realized, a smirk playing on his lips. The woman turned, dropping into a graceful, practiced bow. Greetings to His Majesty and the Empress Dowager, she announced, her voice as clear as a bell. Since I admire the white plum blossoms, I came a little early to acquire a few branches to give to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager smiled, charmed by the gesture. It must have been difficult. Please rise. The emperor stepped closer, his gaze sweeping over her unique appearance. Your makeup is very special, he noted, his voice dropping to a low, intimate register. Even though it's not the gorgeous red, it is purer than the commonly seen makeup, standing in the pure white snow with white cherry blossoms in your hands. You look like a snow goddess. Yu Yan lowered her head, the picture of modesty. Thank you for your compliments, Your Majesty and Empress Dowager, but I dare not. Behind them, the air practically hissed with the jealousy of the other women. How detestable. One hissed into her handkerchief. Her hairstyle looks like the long-lost shooting star chasing the moon. Another gripped her sleeves until her knuckles turned white. But the most despicable part is how well hers match the snowy background. The vixen is seducing His Majesty, how hateful. The Empress herself watched with a dark, brooding scowl, her mind already racing. I despise you. I must think of another way to ruin your appearance. To break the tension, the Empress Dowager turned to the gathered crowd. All the concubines who are enjoying this beautiful scenery. How about composing a poem? She suggested, her eyes twinkling with a challenge. Compose a poem in front of His Majesty and I, and whoever has the best poem will be rewarded. The Empress stepped forward instantly, a smug, self-satisfied grin on her face. Empress Dowager, since my poetic talent is at its best right now, how about I go first? The Emperor and Dowager exchanged a weary, almost pained look, but the Emperor sighed, then, let the Empress deliver her poem. The Empress cleared her throat loudly, demanding absolute silence. Cough. Everyone, please be quiet and listen carefully. She struck a dramatic pose and began. There are flowers everywhere, closely packed with branches. Luckily, there are no bees, or else they'll be tired to death. A deafening, awkward silence fell over the garden, broken only by the caw of a distant crow. The Emperor and Dowager stood frozen, their expressions a mix of horror and disbelief. The other concubines giggled behind their fans, unable to suppress their amusement at the Empress's lack of grace. Unfazed, the Empress beamed. How was it? My poem wasn't bad, right? The Empress Dowager cleared her throat, trying to regain her composure. It's okay. Nevertheless, the Empress started for everyone, so who's going next? Yu Yan stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with a hidden confidence. Empress Dowager, although I am not very talented, I would still like to try. She began to recite, her voice melodic and full of depth. As the harsh, cold wind pierces their silken skirts, white plum blossoms purely bloom towards the snow. Even without a strong fragrance, they quietly stay unrecognized by men among the varying flowers. The Emperor's eyes widened. How strange, he thought. If she can create such a poem on the spot, why did she act like a different person the other day? Regardless of his suspicions, he couldn't deny the talent. Not bad, it's a good poem. Reward Dong Eju later. Yu Yan bowed deeply. I thank Your Majesty in advance. The other concubines were fuming. How despicable. She's stealing the spotlight again. Yes. She took all the attention today, how hateful. Yu Yan, however, was in high spirits, her mind drifting back to the morning. Being angry is useless. However, it's really thanks to Liang Xi's foresight. In a flashback to the early morning hours, Liang Xi had stopped Yu Yan before she left the pavilion. Wait, take this with you, Liang Xi had said, handing her a folded slip of paper. Since you'll probably be asked to compose poems during the Plum Blossoms Festival, I wrote you one, so just memorize it before the Emperor comes. Yu Yan looked at the paper, stunned. Who would have thought that it would be this successful? The festivities continued by the frozen river. "Let us observe from the river now," the dowager commanded. "Dong Ejiu, stay beside me." As they watched, a figure appeared on the ice, moving with impossible fluidity. "Someone's dancing on the ice," the emperor noted. It was Fei Xi Yan Xue, her movements of silken grace as she spun amidst the falling red petals. She twisted and leapt, a master of her craft, her eyes meeting the emperor's with a playful spark as she finished her routine. "Fei Xi Yan Xue greets your majesty and the empress dowager," she said, breathing heavily but smiling. The empress dowager was delighted. "Your ice dance suits this pure background, allowing us to see this wonderful performance. Deliver my message, reward Fei Xi Yan Xue with a higher rank." The dancer bowed low. "Thank you, your highness." Later, back at the Qingdian pavilion, the atmosphere was one of celebration. "Congratulations, miss," the servants cried, kneeling as Yu Yan returned. "Haha, I'm very tired, but I got my reward." Yu Yan laughed, her exhaustion forgotten in the glow of victory. Her servants clustered around her, eager for news. "Congratulations, miss, for your promotion. I heard that even though many people received promotion in the festival, your rank rose the most," Yu Yan preened. But of course, the Empress Dowager promoted Fei Xi Yan Xue to Xiaoyi, and the Wuya sisters bore Jiji to Ronghui, and Fucha Qingning to noble consorts. She stood tall, her eyes flashing with ambition. "However, I still have the highest rank amongst the court ladies, and this includes New Hulu Yuzi, who was in the spotlight. My lady is still the best," her servants cheered. In her mind, Yu Yan was already ascending. "The Empress Dowager gave me the rank Xianfei, and it sounds really nice." Her thoughts took a darker, more manic turn. "In the future, I will do anything to obtain the emperor's heart." She imagined herself as a great, dark creature, an octopus of ambition stretching its tentacles across the Forbidden City. "At that time, the entire palace will be under my command. For the emperor, I will give birth to many children. Even the mean and evil empress cannot do anything to me." She laughed internally as she imagined tossing the empress aside like a discarded doll. Liang Xi watched from the doorway, a small, knowing smile on her face. "Yu Yan seems really happy." Yu Yan caught sight of her and cheered. "I will receive my title tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it." "Liang Xi?" She hurried over to her maid. "It was all thanks to you." Liang Xi nodded modestly, her hand still heavily bandaged. Good thing that it was a success." Yu Yan looked at her with a flicker of genuine concern. "Oh, that's right. Go get the best imperial physician here for me." Soon, they were back in their private quarters. According to Physician Wang, "You have to use all these medicines that he prescribed," Liang Xi said, indicating the array of jars on the table. "Yu Yan, thank you," Liang Xi whispered. Yu Yan sighed, her usual sharp edge softening. "It's nothing, you were hurt because of me." "The truth is, Liang Xi, if not for those past events, I would also want a sister like you." Liang Xi's eyes widened in surprise. "Yu Yan, I've always seen you as a sister in my heart." Yu Yan continued, though she didn't meet Liang Xi's eyes. "You should sleep now, it's late. Your wound will recover much faster if you get more sleep." The next day, as Yu Yan sat in her finery, preparing for her ceremony, she lectured Liang Xi. "You'll need to know these at the opening ceremony." But Liang Xi's mind was elsewhere. Later that day, as she walked through the garden, a voice called out to her. "Liang Xi." She turned to see a high-ranking royal, a prince in his imperial finery. "Your Royal Highness?" She gasped. "Let's have a small talk over here," he suggested, leading her toward a secluded rockery. "I haven't seen you for quite a while. Who'd have thought that you became a plaid in Qingdian Pavilion? So how are you doing?" Liang Xi nodded shyly. I'm much better now." The prince's expression turned serious. "Do you want to leave this palace?" "Today is a very good chance for that." Liang Xi's heart hammered against her ribs. "Huh?" "Recently, the imperial concubine has been getting sick quite often," he explained in a low whisper. "I will use an excuse to visit her tonight. When I leave, I need a eunuch to escort me. I want you to disguise yourself as that eunuch. The guards tonight are also my men. It really is a very rare chance." Liang Xi hesitated. "But what are you still worried about?" the prince asked, his voice gentle. "After you leave, you can stay at my manor first." Liang Xi looked down, her voice trembling. "But I didn't expect to be able to leave the palace this soon. I'm afraid that cannot let this place go." The prince reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "All right, I won't force you. I will order my men to give the eunuch clothing to you later on." He turned to leave. "During midnight, I'll wait for you at the east gate. You still have time to decide whether you come or not." Liang Xi watched him go, her mind a whirlwind. Then, "Liang Xi gives many thanks to your highness. I'll await your arrival," he called back without turning. Meanwhile, in the emperor's private study, the eunuch presented the wooden selection pieces. "Your Majesty, please turn over one of the wood pieces. There are many new appointed ladies today. I wonder if they suit your Majesty's taste." The emperor's eyes scanned the names until they landed on one. "Is there a piece of Dong Ejiu?" The eunuch smiled, producing it immediately. "Yes, it was just made here." The emperor picked up the piece, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Let her serve me for today." The eunuch bowed. Very well, the Xianfei is indeed blessed. Then I will go inform Xianfei to get ready. But the emperor raised a hand. She does not need to come to the Yangtze Hall tonight. I want to go to the Qingjin Pavilion myself. The eunuch was stunned. Ever since I serve you, I've never seen your majesty summon a concubine. Seems like this newly appointed Xianfei really suit to your majesty's taste. The emperor stared out the window. I'm just a bit curious about this Xianfei, to see who she really is. I have to find out tonight what type of person is Dong Yu Yan. He turned to his head guard. Xiao Liangzi, arrange some competent men for me, then wait for my order. As night fell over the Forbidden City, the Qingdian Pavilion was a hive of activity. Congratulations, master, the servants cried. Yu Yan stood in the center of her room, beaming. Ha ha ha, I just finished my ranking ceremony and I haven't even received my big reward yet, but it's time to celebrate already? The eunuch bowed low. Miss, this is a very rare chance. His Majesty has flipped over your wood piece. Yu Yan's eyes went wide. Huh? Am I hearing it wrong? That's right, the eunuch confirmed. The emperor also said that he would personally come to Qingdian Pavilion. Yu Yan's face flushed a deep crimson, her eyes turning into hearts. Ah, that's just fabulous. She immediately turned to her preparations. I'll have to trouble you then, eunuch. Quick, reward him. As Liang Xi began to brush her long hair, Yu Yan whispered, Tonight will be my happiness. I can't believe it happened so fast. Liang Xi, I won't forget all the things that you've done for me. If there is a good time, I will fulfill my promise. She looked at Liang Xi in the mirror. Also, your mother is not feeling very well. Do you want to leave the palace and visit her? Liang Xi gasped, her hands trembling. Of course I want to. Yu Yan smiled, but there was a sharp, calculating edge to it now. You've helped me fulfill all my wishes very fast, so I want to help you in return this time. Tonight I'll order my eunuch to bribe the Imperial Guard and see if I get you outside secretly. Lying stunned. What? Yu Yan, you do not have to thank me. Yu Yan interrupted, her gaze hardening. I have my own reasons too. She stared at her own reflection, her voice dropping to a cold, flat tone. In the past, all of my talents grew thanks to you. After this night, I will start over a new life with His Majesty. From now on, I want to use my own power to gain his favor. She turned her head slightly, her eyes cold. So I do not want His Majesty to see you and know your existence when he visits this Qingdian Pavilion. I will erase all of your existence from his mind, so it's best if you leave this palace. Liang Xi blinked, then a slow, genuine smile spread across her face. Liang Xi, I'm sorry, but the emperor is mine, all right? Yu Yan added, expecting a fight. Huh? Liang Xi laughed softly. Then I can finally lift up this heavy burden. Actually, there's a gentleman that offered help to get me outside the palace tonight. I was worried that you still need me, so I didn't agree with it, but seems like I'm really lucky today. Yu Yan's jaw dropped. Is that so? Then you can go ahead and leave with him. Tell me if you need my help. Liang Xi began to change her clothes, pulling a eunuch's uniform from a hidden bundle. I'm almost done with my life in the palace. People may call me frail and weak, so I'm just giving all the good opportunities to Yu Yan. But in truth, they don't know me. Reality is, I'm the luckiest one. She pulled the eunuch's cap low over her brow, a spark of pure joy in her eyes. I got everything that I want. Status for mother, reunion with my parents, and I also have a very close sister. More importantly, I don't have to live my life like the others, trapped with the emperor in a cage with nothing but gold and jade vie with each other. Freedom is now within my grasp, and I can go meet with my mother soon. The air in the Qingdian Pavilion was thick with the scent of incense and the nervous sweat of the palace staff. A young servant knelt before the Xianfei, his voice trembling as he delivered the news that His Majesty had arrived early at the pavilion, demanding to hear the very song she was known for. The Xianfei's eyes widened in a flash of panic, her ornate red robes rustling as she turned toward the inner chambers. Liang Xi, she hissed, her voice a desperate whisper as she caught the girl before she could slip away. Luckily, you didn't leave yet. There was no time for explanations or goodbyes. The Xianfei grabbed Liang Xi's arm, dragging her toward the performance stage, even as she promised to help her escape the palace later. The heavy thud of boots and the rhythmic clatter of armor signaled the inevitable. His Majesty has arrived, a guard bellowed, and the emperor stepped into the light, his white hair shimmering under the silk lanterns. The music began, the haunting notes of the guqin drifting through the hall as the Xianfei sang of lotuses and riverbanks, her voice steady despite the hammering of her heart. Emperor Shunji sat back, a bored, feline grace in his posture, but his sharp eyes were not on the singer. He leaned toward a guard, his voice a low, dangerous murmur. Go behind her back and see if... Suddenly, a sharp clack-clack echoed through the room, shattering the melody. Liang Xi, hidden behind the decorative screen to assist with the music, froze as the screen was kicked aside, exposing her to the entire court. Shunji didn't look angry. Instead, he began to clap slowly, a mocking smirk playing on his lips. Very good, he drawled, his eyes locking onto Liang Xi. Sure enough, I saw through the act. Liang Xi didn't hesitate. She threw herself onto the cold floor, her forehead hitting the tiles with a dull thud. "Please forgive us, Your Majesty," she cried, her voice muffled by the floorboards. "Everything is caused by this servant. Please forgive my master and punish this humble servant." Shunshi stood, his heavy robes trailing behind him as he paced toward her, intrigued by the eunuch who was so quick to take the fall. Are you too embarrassed to even show me your face?" he asked, his voice dropping to a predatory silkiness. Liang Xi trembled, her hand shielding her features, but the emperor's patience had reached its end. "Too bad," he whispered. "No one can go against my order. I want to see what your face really looks like." He reached down, his fingers clamping firmly around her chin and forcing her head up. The world seemed to stop. Shunshi's breath hitched, his golden brown eyes widening in genuine shock as he stared into the face of the girl he had encountered once before. How could she be here? He thought, the memories of their meeting flashing through his mind like a fever dream. And as a eunuch of all things, a dark, triumphant smile slowly spread across his face. "Men," he barked, gesturing to the guards. "Take this eunuch to Yangxin Hall. I will interrogate him myself tonight." The guards swarmed, hauling Liang Xi to her feet and forcing her toward the exit. The Xianfei reached out, her eyes streaming with tears of terror. "Your Majesty," she sobbed. Shunji didn't even turn around. "Lock her up in Qingjian Pavilion," he commanded. "She is not allowed to leave without permission." As the Xianfei's pleas for mercy echoed through the rafters, Shunji merely let out a cold, dismissive grunt, his mind already on the prisoner waiting for him in the shadows. Night fell over the Forbidden City, and the damp walls of the interrogation room felt like a tomb. Liang Xi was forced to her knees, her wrists bound in heavy iron chains that rattled with every shudder of her breath. She stared at the floor, her face flushed with a mix of fear and shame. The heavy doors creaked open, and Shunji stepped inside, his presence filling the small stone room. "All of you retreat," he ordered the guards. "I want to interrogate her myself." He stood over her, his shadow looming long against the wall. "We met again," he whispered, the words tasting of a dark secret. He leaned down, his eyes scanning her trembling form. "This time, you dared to infiltrate into the palace and disguised yourself as a eunuch." Liang Xi squeezed her eyes shut, her voice small and desperate. "This servant has never met your Majesty, so I don't know what your Majesty is talking about." Shunshi's eyes narrowed. "You still have room for pretending?" he hissed. Before she could react, his hand shot out, grabbing the collar of her servant's tunic. "Then I will see for myself if you're a male or female." With a violent jerk, he ripped the fabric open, exposing the delicate white silk of her feminine undergarment. Liang Xi gasped, her face burning a deep crimson as she tried to pull the torn fabric together with her chained hands. Shunji let out a low, mocking laugh. "Are you embarrassed? There's only me and you here today." He gripped her chin again, tilting her tear-streaked face toward his. "It's such a good opportunity, yet you're not trying to seduce me?" When she remained silent, his playfulness vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp edge. "This room has many special tools for torturing." He gestured toward the shadows where iron devices hung like skeletal remains. "I don't believe that you won't spit out your master's name." Liang Xi's voice was a broken sob. "This servant is not. I am wrong. I'll take all the responsibilities. There's no one behind me." Shunji's expression didn't soften. He reached for a heavy iron lever on the wall and pulled. With a terrifying shing, a bed of hundreds of razor-sharp steel spikes rose from the floor. "So, do you want to try it?" he asked, his voice devoid of mercy. Without waiting for an answer, he scooped her up in his arms, her small frame light against his chest. He carried her to the center of the room and attached her chains to a pulley system, suspending her directly over the bed of spikes. "There are plenty of sharp needles right below you," he warned, his hand hovering over the release chain. "If I just let go, you'll fall right into them." "No! The Xianfei is innocent." Liang Xi screamed, the terror finally breaking her composure. "There's no one behind me. Everything is caused by me." Shunshi's eyes remained cold as stone. "It's too late for regret now. Let's see how long you can keep your mouth shut." He released the lock, and the chain rattled through the pulley, dropping her inches toward the spikes. Liang Xi let out a piercing scream, her eyes snapping shut as she braced for the end. She hung there, suspended just above death, her breathing coming in ragged, shallow gasps. "If I die here," she thought despairingly, "I hope it won't drag my parents and Yu Yan in it." Shunji watched her, his brow furrowing as her head lolled to the side. "Did she pass out?" he muttered, leaning in closer. He poked at her, his annoyance rising. "So she's just pretending?" He gritted his teeth, his anger boiling over. "You'd rather die than tell me your master's name?" I'll use a different method then." He stepped back, his eyes landing on a lacquered wooden chest in the corner. "Girls like her probably are really scared of snakes," he mused to himself. "I'll scare her and she'll panic right away. Come out, Futai." He let out a sharp, melodic whistle, and the lid of the chest creaked open. A massive, golden-scaled snake slithered out, its tongue flickering as it tasted the air. Liang Xi's eyes snapped open, and her scream was purely primal. "It is a snakey?" She thrashed against the chains, her face pale as a ghost. "No," she whimpered. Shunshi smirked, watching his pet coil near her feet. Then tell me who your master is, he demanded. Liang Xi's eyes rolled back in her head, her voice a mere thread of sound. There's no master. Her body went limp, her head falling forward as she finally succumbed to the overwhelming terror. Shunji blinked, his smirk fading. She really fainted this time. He reached out, his hand gently lifting her chin to check her pulse. He let out a sigh, the game no longer fun. Futai, go back, he commanded, and the serpent obediently retreated into its box. He quickly unfastened the heavy iron shackles from her wrists, catching her limp body before she could fall. Even her breathing is weak, he muttered, a flicker of something like guilt crossing his face. Was she scared to death? As he adjusted her weight in his arms, a small, embroidered sachet slipped from her torn robes and fell to the floor. Shunji knelt, picking it up. Oh, it's her sachet. Let's find some clues. He opened the silk bag, pulling out a dried, pressed maple leaf. He unfolded the paper tucked inside it, his eyes scanning the elegant calligraphy of a poem. His heart skipped a beat. The poem, the leaf, it's her? He gasped, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. The leaf that I picked up belonged to her? The interrogation room was forgotten. Shunji carried her through the silent halls of the palace to his own private quarters. He laid her gently on the golden silk sheets of the imperial bed, his fingers lingering on a strand of her dark hair. He sat by her side for hours, the moonlight bathing her pale face as he watched her sleep. In the end, he whispered to the empty room, "Who really are you?" Far across the palace grounds, beneath the shadow of a high pagoda, a lone figure stood watching the moon. Yu Yen tightened his grip on his cloak, his eyes filled with a growing, restless dread. "Looks like she didn't come," he murmured, his voice lost to the cold night wind. "Reporting to your majesty," the guard whispered, bowing low as he presented his findings on the mysterious girl. "This servant has gathered information about this woman. Her name is Dong Liang Xi, one of the concubines from this year's selection, daughter of Minister Chen Shuo, though rumors suggest her mother was but a common prostitute in Jiangnan." The emperor's eyes narrowed, his silver hair catching the light as he considered the report. "Is that so? Chen Shuo has been loyal for years, but I cannot make out his intentions. Perhaps this woman has a hidden background, using this identity to infiltrate my palace. But your majesty," the guard stammered, glancing toward the inner chambers. "She is still sleeping on your dragon bed." Shunji waved a dismissive hand, a playful yet dangerous smirk dancing on his lips. "That's not a problem." Inside the grand chamber, Liang Xi's eyes fluttered open, the opulence of the room disorienting her. Where is this place?" She sat up, the golden silk sheets sliding down her shoulders, before memory hit her like a physical blow, the cold scales, the flickering tongue. "The snake! Where is the snake? You finally woken up," a voice drawled from the doorway. The emperor stood there, back from court, looking down at her with a mix of amusement and calculated coldness. To think a woman who seemed so sophisticated would be so utterly terrified of a simple snake. He turned to his attendant with a sharp snap of his fingers. "Xiao Liangzi, call in the palace maids to change her clothes. Bring in concubine sleepwear for her." Liang Xi clutched the sheets to her chest, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Sleepwear? But also," Emperor interrupted, his voice raising so the entire hall could hear, "carry out my orders. Tell the palace that I made love with her last night. As such, I grant her the title of a female government official." Liang Xi's jaw dropped. "What? Are you surprised?" Shunji leaned in, his face inches from hers. "A female official is excluded from the 9 ranks. It is a position so lowly it is barely different from being a common palace maid. I am doing this so that I can have you by my side day and night, until my interest in you disappears." He reached out, his finger tilting her chin upward, forcing her to meet his piercing gaze. "I will continue to play with you, and sooner or later you will have to tell me the truth." He turned on his heel, his robes billowing. "From now on, official Dong Yi will stay in Yangsan Palace to serve me." The news spread through the Forbidden City like wildfire, reaching the ears of the Empress. She shrieked in fury, snatching up a stuffed pig and hurling it across the room. So it's Dong Liang Xi. My husband has ignored the harem for years, yet she is the first one he looks at. Damn it! Please, calm down, your majesty," her maids cried, scurrying to retrieve the toy. One of her more cunning attendants stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with malice. "Your majesty, think about it. This is very strange. His majesty clearly chose the Xianfei's wood piece, yet he brought Liang Xi back instead. If my guess is right, the Xianfei used Liang Xi to earn favor, and his majesty was simply fooled by a pretty face." The empress fumed, her face contorting. "My looks are 10,000 times better. How could he fall for her?" "Ease your anger," the attendant soothed. Liang Xi was demoted to a palace maid, and even after making love with the emperor, her rank is still bottom tier. He isn't treating her well at all. This is the perfect opportunity to deal with the Xianfei. "How?" the empress demanded. "Currently, Liang Xi and the Xianfei are sisters," the attendant whispered. "If they team up, they will be harder to break. We must strike now while the Xianfei is losing ground. Remember the maid Kinger who tried to poison the Xianfei's wash water and then committed suicide? We can use the staff at the Neiwu residence to finish what was started. The Empress leaned back, a dark smile forming. Go on. Order the kitchen to stop all food supply to Qingyan Pavilion. The attendant hissed. All food for the Shinfei will now come from the Neiwu residence. Tell them we are conserving expenses. They can give her whatever scraps they want. Back in the Yangtze Palace, Liang Xi knelt before the emperor, her head bowed in a show of forced respect. Respects to your majesty. Shunshi lounged on his throne, his expression unreadable. There's something I want to ask you. I gave you my guarding evil prayer beads that day. Where are they now? Did you already give them to your master? Answering your majesty, Liang Xi replied softly. I have always kept them next to me. They are in my jewelry box at Qingyan Pavilion. Oh? The emperor stood up, walking toward her with predatory grace. Your answer satisfies me, but are you aware that your etiquette is entirely wrong? Liang Xi's face flushed red. I know my mistakes. What? Is this new form of address uncomfortable for you? He mocked, his voice dropping to a seductive whisper. Then, do you really want to make love with me? He suddenly lunged, pinning her against the cushions. All right, I'll entertain you tonight. Ah? Please no, Liang Xi gasped, her hands trembling as she pushed against his chest. This official, this concubine still has sins on her body. Your majesty should be worried. That's why I cannot serve you right now. The emperor's playful demeanor vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp edge. You can even decide whether you serve me or not. What, do you hate me that much? Or do you have someone else in your heart already? He stood up, his eyes turning to ice. Go get your jewelry box from Qingyan Pavilion and return my beads to me. After that, wait for me in Yangtze Palace. And serve me tonight. Yes, Liang Xi whispered, her eyes brimming with unshed tears as she watched him walk away. Escorted by the emperor's guards, Liang Xi arrived at Qingyan Pavilion only to find her sister, Yu Yan, staring in horror at a tray of food. What kind of food is the house of Naiwu bringing to me? Yu Yan screamed. The fish was black and rotting, the rice clumped and sour. If it's not smelly, it's spoiled. Even the lowest person in the palace wouldn't eat this. Mistress, please bear with it. Her maid sobbed. They only provide one portion a day. Official Dong Yi has arrived, a guard announced. Yu Yan spun around, her eyes wide. What? Official Dong Yi? You became a female official. She stepped closer, her voice trembling with a mix of jealousy and hurt. Not only did you not get punished, but you also got to spend the night with His Majesty. Yu Yan. It's hard to explain, Liang Xi pleaded. I will explain everything later. Yu Yan turned away, her bitterness overflowing. It seems you set up a plan deliberately to benefit from my misfortune. Whatever. You're a master now, just like me. Even though I'm ranked higher than you, I have to eat this garbage every day. Liang Xi looked at the rotting fish on the table, her heart breaking for her sister. These are the foods they are giving you. Before she could offer comfort, the emperor's guards stepped forward. Miss Dong Yi, your jewelry box has been packed. Please return to Yangtze Palace right away. I'm sorry, but the emperor will not permit you to stay any longer, the guard added firmly. Liang Xi looked back at Yu Yan one last time. Yu Yan, take care. I will find a way to help you. Back at the palace, Liang Xi presented the prayer beads to the emperor. He held them up to the light, a small, satisfied smile appearing on his face. It really is my guarding evil prayer beads. Now, are you ready to serve me? Liang Xi remained silent, her eyes dazzled. Shunshi clapped his hands twice. I've prepared clothes for you. You two help her change. When Liang Xi emerged, she was transformed. She wore a sheer, ethereal gown of seafoam green that clung to her curves, her long hair flowing freely. The emperor approached her, holding a cluster of white narcissus flowers. Put these onto her head. He leaned in close, his fingers grazing her skin as he tucked the flowers into her hair. Your beauty is truly one of a kind. He stared into her eyes, his mind racing. Is she really not a spy? Is she truly this innocent? Suddenly, he pulled away. Forget it. If you're still afraid of me, go to room next door to sleep. Liang Xi blinked, stunned by the sudden change. I only like the fragrance of narcissi, but I do not like to smell a large amount of them, he explained, walking away. Room is made of wood frames, so the fragrance on your head will spread and help me fall asleep. Besides, I need a maid to serve me when I wake. You are on night duty. You must come right away when I call you. Yes, Liang Xi replied, a small sense of relief washing over her as she watched the enigmatic emperor disappear behind the curtains. The emperor lay back against his silken pillows, the moonlight of the forbidden city spilling across his chambers as he stared into the void, his mind consumed by a single, recurring image. No woman has ever made me feel this curious, Shunji whispered to the empty air, his brow furrowing with an intensity that bordered on obsession. It was a hunger for knowledge, a desperate need to peel back the layers of the woman who had disrupted his boredom so thoroughly. Across the palace grounds, the stillness of the night was mirrored in another chamber, where the Empress Dowager's rival, Namu Zhang, lay in a restless slumber. Her features were taut, even in sleep, as the ghosts of the past clawed at her subconscious. In her dreams, the world shifted to a sun-drenched field where the late Emperor Taiji stood before her, his voice a warm memory. Namuzhang, I will never forget your kindness, he murmured, his hands clasped in hers against a backdrop of imperial carriages. He looked into her eyes with a promise that had once been her world. In the future, I will take good care of you, so that you and our child will have a position that no one can compare to. The dream shattered as a maid pulled back the heavy curtains. My lady, have you woken up? The servant asked softly. Namuzhang sat up, the cold reality of the present settling over her like a shroud. Ha! I dreamed about the late emperor again, she sighed, her gaze sharpening as she turned to her attendant. Tell Prince Xiang to come to see me tomorrow. As the sun rose, the daily rhythm of the Yangtze Palace began, with Liang Xi, now known as official Dong Yi, tending to the young emperor's morning ablutions. She held the basin with practiced grace, but her mind was set on a dangerous necessity. Your Majesty, she began, her voice steady despite the weight of his gaze, I have something to ask for your permission. Shunji looked up from the towel, his eyes narrowing. Oh? Tell me. According to the palace rules, a female official has to give greetings to the empress every morning, Liang Xi explained, keeping her head bowed. Although your Majesty doesn't allow me to leave Yangtze Palace, I cannot go against the palace rules. A flicker of amusement, or perhaps a challenge, crossed the emperor's face. Oh, he conceded, before turning to the stone-faced attendants nearby. Na mama, wu mama, you two accompany her. Report her actions to me when you come back. Liang Xi soon found herself standing before the assembled might of the inner palace, where the air was thick with the scent of incense and the unspoken daggers of jealous women. She knelt before the throne, her voice clear. Official Dong Yi, give greetings to the Empress. May the Empress have great fortune in life. The Empress did not offer a blessing. She offered a snarl. Humph. You only came to greet me now, she spat, her finger pointing accusingly. Do you even have some respect for me? Answering your Majesty, Liang Xi replied, her composure a shield. The Emperor did not allow me to leave Yangtze Palace, so I only just came here today. Please forgive my rudeness. The mention of the Emperor's favor was like throwing oil on a fire. How detestable. The Empress screamed, her face contorting with rage. Are you showing off His Majesty's favor for you? Her attendants rushed to hold her back, whispering pleas for her to calm down, reminding her that it was indeed the Emperor's decree that had kept the girl away. Smoothing her robes, the Empress settled into her seat with a cruel smirk. As for official Dong Yi, you're no different from a palace maid, so just stand right there. Blame yourself for having such a low rank. Behind her, the other concubines whispered behind their fans, their voices like hissing snakes. Himph, His Majesty is just playing with her, one sneered. She'll be thrown away like trash when His Majesty is bored with her. The Empress wasn't finished. Whatever your reason is, not greeting me at the correct time is wrong, she barked, her eyes alight with a sudden, wicked inspiration. Official Dong Yi, I'll punish you. She paused, tapping a finger against her lips as she searched for a humiliation that would sting. I heard that she's really good at literature. How about a predatory grin spread across her face? That's right, it's almost my baby pig's birthday. I want to give it a few sets of clothes. I punish you to draw 100 sets of pig's clothes. 3 days later, bring me our designs, and I'll choose some of them. The room erupted in mocking laughter, the concubines delighted by the absurdity. Seems like official Dong Yi is really suitable for designing pig's clothes, they jeered. Liang Xi simply bowed, her expression unreadable. I will do what your Majesty asks for. As she left the hall, she passed her friend, Xian Fei, who reached out with a worried look. But the Emperor's nannies stepped between them like a wall. My lady, according to the Emperor, when official Dong Yi finished greeting the Empress, she must return to Yangtze Palace right away and not interact with other concubines. Liang Xi gave her friend a small, reassuring smile over her shoulder. No need to worry, you should take care of yourself first. Back in the safety of her quarters, a nanny presented a tray of exquisite dishes. These are the food from the imperial kitchen. When you are finished, please don't go outside and wait for His Majesty's order. But Liang Xi looked at the food and thought of Xian Fei, who was being fed scraps. Waiting until the nanny fell into a deep sleep, she grabbed the container and slipped to the corridors, heading toward Qingyan Pavilion. Suddenly, Byumpishi collided with a solid chest. Ass! The food spilled across the pavement in a mess of rice and vegetables. Liang Xi looked up into the cold, mocking eyes of Shunshi. Where do you plan to go, huh? He asked, his voice low and dangerous. She stammered, looking at the mess. You're still lying to me? Shunshi challenged, stepping closer. Your Majesty, I saw the horrible food that the House of Naiwu is giving to Xian Fei. That's why. Shunshi's expression hardened. That's why you secretly went to give her food. So you're playing innocent in front of me, but show a different face behind my back. Come with me. He grabbed her wrist and dragged her back to his throne room, throwing her to the ground. Do you miss Xian Fei that much? It's a shame that she dug her own grave. Her crime can't be forgiven. He leaned forward, a predatory glint in his eyes. But if you manage to please me, I will pay a bit of attention to her. Therefore, you should think of ways to please me. Liang Xi lowered her head. I understand. She began her service, kneeling to present him with a steaming cup of tea. This cup of Jingting green snow tea is quite good, he remarked casually. He then reclined on his lounger, stretching out his limbs. I'm tired now, you come here and give me a massage. As she worked, his voice drifted up, testing her. Xianfei also gave me a bag of lotus fragrance. Was that made by you? I want to hear the truth. Yes. It was me, she whispered. Shunji closed his eyes, a small smile playing on his lips. Right. I'm bored with my current night clothes. You make a new set for me. As she agreed, he couldn't help but wonder to himself, when did I start to like ordering her around so much? Meanwhile, in the shadows of another palace, Namu Zhang met with her son, Prince Xiang. Last night, I dreamed about the late emperor again, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I recalled some of my past memories and found a few clues. She spoke of the old days of the late Emperor Taiji's love for Empress Jiji and concubine Hailan Zhu, and how she herself had been the most respected in the harem. The late emperor promised me many times that our child, and I would have an extraordinary status. She continued, her eyes flashing with bitterness. Unfortunately, before he had time to leave his will, he suddenly passed away, letting those cunning scoundrels take advantage of the situation. She described how Dorgan, the regent, had seized power and placed the 6-year-old Shunji on the throne. But when I think back, there is a deeper meaning to it. Dorgan, Zhuangfei, and Fu Lin just simply look almost like a real family. Prince Xiang's eyes widened. Could it be that? That's right, Namu Zhang hissed. I'm guessing that Dorgan and Zhuangfei already had a secret relationship, and the current emperor, Fu Lin, is in fact not the emperor's flesh and blood. Mother, it's a pity that we do not have the evidence, Prince Xiang cautioned. Evidence does not disappear, she countered. Fu Lin is starting to suspect his own identity. He gave an order to destroy Dorgan's tomb to raise anything that could relate to him. Prince Xiang nodded slowly. I also heard many people said that you should never talk about Dorgan in front of the emperor. This is a taboo in the palace, Namu Zhang leaned in. There is one clue. Years ago, Dorgan died at the city of Kala. There was only one lady that served him, a woman of Joseon named Li Xie, the birth mother of Lady Feng Na. She spoke of a book, the Rui Shu, which Dorgan had written and intended for the Empress Dowager. But it had disappeared with Feng Na. If we can find her, we can find the book. There must be a secret about Emperor Fu Lin's identity in that book. All right, Prince Xiang resolved. I will send out some men to find out where Feng Na is located. Don't forget to search inside the palace, Namu Zhang warned. Even though Empress Dowager is staying quiet, doesn't mean that her supporters will also stay quiet. Back in the emperor's quarters, the night was deep and Liang Xi was hunched over an embroidery hoop. His Majesty told me to make night clothes, and Her Majesty punished me to make pig clothes. Seems like I won't be able to get any sleep tonight. She carefully placed a screen around her lamp. I'll cover the light so it will not bother His Majesty. From the darkness of his bed, Shunji watched her silhouette. Is she staying up late to make night clothes for me? He wondered, a rare warmth touching his heart. The next morning, the emperor entered the room to find Liang Xi slumped over the table, fast asleep from exhaustion. Did she fall asleep since she was tired? He mused, leaning over her. Her sleeping face is so beautiful. If only her heart could be as beautiful as her face. He reached for the stack of papers she had been working on. Let's see, what kind of night clothes did she made for me? Are these the designs? He flipped the page and his face instantly drained of color. The papers were covered in drawings of pigs in imperial robes, pigs in scholars' gowns, pigs in every conceivable outfit. What? Shunji roared, his voice echoing through the palace. How be old? Liang Xi bolted upright, her eyes wide with shock. Eh? Your Majesty? You dared mock me? He screamed, shaking the drawings of the pigs in her face. Liang Xi looked at the drawings, then at his furious, reddened face, and a giggle escaped her lips. Then another. Soon she was doubled over, laughing uncontrollably. Shunji froze, his anger momentarily stunned by the sound. You're laughing? Answering Your Majesty, Her Majesty the Empress punished me to draw 100 sets of pig clothes for her pet pig yesterday, when I gave my greetings to her. Liang Xi explains, her voice small and weary. The emperor's eyes widen, a flicker of genuine surprise crossing his face. Those designs are all for pig clothes. Is that so? He murmurs, his expression shifting into a blank, almost comical disbelief. Yes, she whispers, bowing her head. Stepping closer, Liang Shang carefully unwraps a bundle, the silk shimmering in the lamplight. This is the night clothes that I made for Your Majesty last night, she says, offering the garment with both hands. Fu Lin takes the fabric, his fingers tracing the intricate embroidery. Very exquisite and truly out of the ordinary, he admits, his voice dropping an octave as he observes the fine craftsmanship. He turns to her, his gaze intense. Come and change my clothes for me. Yes, she replies softly. The air in the room grows thick, with an unspoken tension as she reaches out, her small hands trembling slightly as she fastens the golden robes over his shoulders. Fu Lin watches her closely, his sharp eyes softening as he catches the faint blush creeping up her neck. Standing before the mirror, he admires the fit. It's quite beautiful, he remarks. though whether he means the robe or the woman behind him remains unsaid. All right, that's all for today. You may go rest now. Thank you, Your Majesty, she says, beginning to withdraw. And he calls out, stopping her in her tracks. And Xie and Fei, right? In the future, the Imperial Kitchen will send you an extra portion of food. You can just give it to her yourself. Liang Xi freezes, then turns back, a radiant, heart-stopping smile breaking across her face. Thank you, Your Majesty. The Emperor looks as if he's been struck. He stares at her, his usual mask of boredom completely shattered. That's the first time I've seen you smile to me genuinely, he says, his voice a low, melodic vibration. He leans in, his amber eyes locking onto hers. You're really beautiful when you smile. Liang Xi can only stare back, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Later, in the cold shadows of the side palace, Liang Xi sets the tray of food down. Xian Fei glares at her, her pride bristling like a wounded animal. Are you pitying me? She snaps. Does it make you feel better now? I'm sorry, but His Majesty won't let me stay for too long, Liang Xi says gently, ignoring the bite in the other woman's tone. So you should take care. Humph. I do not need your sympathy. I will not eat even if I starve, Xian Fei shouts, her face contorting with rage. But the moment Liang Xi turns her back, a loud, betraying growl echoes from Xian Fei's stomach. Hateful! I'll just eat it, she grumbles, immediately stuffing a bun into her mouth with frantic, starving energy. Nom nom. She munches, her cheeks bulging as Liang Xi watches from the doorway with a knowing, gentle smile. Meanwhile, in the courtyard, the Empress is focused on a different kind of battle. 13, 14. She counts, her foot blurring as she keeps a feathered shuttlecock in the air. Her attendants watch with bated breath, their faces pinched with anxiety. 15, 16, 17, Aku. A sudden sneeze sends the shuttlecock flying wildly. Huh? The attendants gasp as the feathers tumble toward the dirt. Boop! It bounces off a maid's head instead of hitting the ground. The Empress spins around, her face darkening. Your Majesty, it's all right, it hasn't touched the ground yet. The maid squeaks, trembling as she desperately tries to keep the game going. 18, 19, 20. The Empress delivers a final, triumphant kick, catching the Jianzi in her hand. Ha ha! I kicked it 20 times in one breath today. Can any of you even do it? Yes, yes. The Queen is very talented. We can't be compared to you. The maids chorus, their smiles strained and forced. I would definitely win if I were in a Jianzi competition, the Empress declares, a light bulb practically appearing over her head. I got it. On this New Year's Day, let's host a Jianzi competition in the palace. When that time comes, the Empress Dowager, concubines, and other royals will be there. Surely, I'll be the prettiest of them all, then His Majesty will be moved by my beauty. The news ripples through the palace like a stone dropped in a pond. A Jianzi competition. The concubines whisper in unison, their eyes wide with varying degrees of excitement and dread. The Empress summons Liang Xi to the main hall. Official Dong Yi considered that you made clothes for my baby pig. I will let you participate in this competition. Liang Xi blinks surprised. However, the Empress adds, her voice dripping with hidden malice. You have to understand how low your rank is. Therefore, you're not allowed a pretty costume nor any jewelry. You are only allowed to wear palace-made attire, got it? Also, you're not allowed to tell anyone that I didn't let you dress up for the event. Yes, Liang Xi replies, her head bowed. Behind her, the other concubines snicker behind their hands. Hee hee, let's see how she can attract His Majesty then. If she dresses shabbily like that, the Empress Dowager would see her as being very disrespectful. Liang Xi retreats to the royal garden to practice. I kick, and I kick, she sighs, looking at the shuttlecock on the frozen ground. Ha, I still couldn't get it right. There are only 2 days left, what do I do? She reaches into a pouch and pulls out a bright green sphere. I bought this at the night before I crossed, a super bouncy ball. How about I try this? She winds up a massive kick. FWOsh. The ball rockets into the sky, disappearing over the high palace walls. Did I kick it too hard? She gasps, watching it vanish. It's better if I run away first. She thinks, scurrying off as the ball goes boing across the rooftops. On the other side of the wall, the Emperor is walking with his brothers. Today, Gao Sai returned. Yibushu Changshu and Tao Sai also enter the palace. Fulin notes internally. Gao Sai, the 6th brother, smiles. I've brought a couplet for you. I wonder if you can solve it. He holds up a scroll. Suddenly, a whistle cuts through the air. Whoosh! Ah-as. The guards freeze. Could it be a hidden weapon from intruders? Gyuris. FWOsh. Before anyone can react, Fulin's hand blurs, snatching the projectile out of the air with effortless grace. King Brother's skill is very nimble, Gao Sai remarks, impressed. Fulin opens his hand to reveal the green bouncy ball. I wonder what kind of weapon could it be, the younger brothers mutter. Fulin drops it. Boing. He watches it bounce with a deadpan expression. Let's see. It's more like a toy to me, he says, his brother staring at the bouncing ball in stunned silence. Nearby, a concubine is preening for her grand entrance. I'll pretend to walk past them to show who's the most beautiful here. Ayat. The bouncy ball strikes her square in the forehead. What is that? She screams, her carefully applied makeup ruined as she tumbles to the ground. She snatches the ball, her face twisting into a mask of fury. This damn object. She throws it down, but it only bounces higher. Boing? Boing? Huh? She gasps, her anger turning into a calculating glint. She catches it again, turning the peculiar object over in her hands. Great, I can give them this in the upcoming Jianzi competition. Back in the Yangshan Palace, Fu Lin is hunched over the scroll Gao Sai gave him. Guda Yan Xia. Although this verse seems simple, it has a deeper meaning to it, he muses, his brow furrowed. Six Brothers' poetry skill is getting better every day. Just the word Zai makes the verse complicated. If I use a common word to respond, it would make me look like an idiot. He hears a footstep and looks up. Liang Xi is entering with tea. You come here, he commands. Yes. There is half of a couplet on this painting, he says, gesturing to the desk. I want you to try and write the other half. Liang Xi's eyes go wide. But I'm not that clever. How could I? Don't talk nonsense, he interrupts, his voice firm, but not unkind. If you can't come up with something clever, I will treat it as a joke and won't blame you. Liang Xi takes the brush, her eyes scanning the ink. Guda Yan Xia Zai. She pauses, a memory flickering in her mind. She begins to write. When she finishes, she holds the paper up, her cheeks flushed. I've finished the other half. I implore your majesty to not laugh at it. Fu Lin takes the paper. Changguan Shui Yuqian. His heart skips a beat. The whole creative concept leaves no doubt. No other words can replace the word Xian. She responded to it so perfectly. He stares at her, his gaze so intense that Liang Xi shrinks back. Why? Does His Majesty keep staring at me like that? Did I answer it wrong? Worries. She worries. Come here, he says softly. He reaches into a lacquered box and pulls out a delicate, pressed red autumn leaf. When I visited the stream at the royal garden, I picked up a red autumn leaf. The handwriting on this leaf looks very much like yours. Liang Xi gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. Your Majesty, the one that put this red leaf into the stream was me. I was cleaning the garden and saw how beautiful the scenery was, so I... Then do you know who's the one that wrote on that red leaf in your sachet? He asks, a smirk playing on his lips. I don't know. Fu Lin picks up a brush and writes a few characters. Why don't you take a look at my handwriting? Liang Xi leans in, her breath hitching. Could you be... I am the one that wrote on that red leaf, he says, his eyes sparkling with a rare warmth. It's such a coincidence, right? He steps closer, the scent of sandalwood clinging to him. Moreover, the bag of fragrance that you made for Xianfei has the artistic concept of Wang Ji. Do you like the piece Wang Ji as well? Yes, I like it very much. It's one of my favorite pieces, she whispers. Fu Lin moves behind her, his hands gently covering hers. Liang Xi's breath hitches, her whole body turning to fire at his touch. I want to hear you play the guqin right now, he murmurs into her ear, his voice a velvet caress. Could you play it for me? She exhales, unable to refuse. The haunting, ethereal notes of the guqin fill the moonlit room. Fu Lin stands beside her, his gaze never leaving her face as she plays with a soul-deep grace. He watches the way the moonlight catches the silver of her hairpins, the way her fingers dance across the strings. I can't believe His Majesty is the one who wrote on that red leaf. Liang Xi thinks, her heart swelling. More than that. Why does His Majesty also like the things that I like? They stand together in the silence that follows, two souls finally finding a resonance in the vast, cold palace. The next day, Fu Lin meets with Gao Sai. Amazing. I didn't expect King Brothers' poetry to be this impressive. Gao Sai says, admiring the finished couplet. Fu Lin chuckles, a genuine sound. Actually, that couplet was not finished by me. It was finished by a young maiden that's beside me, he says, a soft, secret smile touching his lips. Gao Sai's eyes widen. A young maiden. There is such an elegant and refined woman in the palace. But while the emperor finds a connection, others are weaving a trap. In a lavish room, a concubine watches as a eunuch presents a tray. My lady, I have used the strange ball and have made the jianzi that you told me to. Oh? She picks up the gorgeous, peacock-feathered shuttlecock. Although this jianzi looks very beautiful and gorgeous, if you just kick it once, the shell will bust and the strange ball will come out, creating a ruckus. Ha! This is totally great. She laughs, her eyes glinting with malice. But who will be the one to kick it? She thinks of her enemies. Well, Xianfei is the one I despise the most, but she's been locked up, so she's not able to participate. The second one is that Dong-yi Liang Xi. The Empress has already punished her, so even if I don't use her, she still is unlucky. As for the third one, that crazy Empress, I don't want to go against her right now. She watches the Empress screaming at her servants in a fit of rage and shudders. Let's just forget about her. Who should I use? Oh, I know. A wicked grin spreads across her face. I'll use that He Shi Li King Yang. She has a lot of martial art and amazed everyone last time. This time, I'll make sure that she would mess up so that she won't gain His Majesty's favor. You can give that Jianzi to Fei Xi Yan at the competition and take care of her, she orders. Understood. New Year's Day arrives, cloaking the palace in a blanket of pristine white snow. How lucky we are to have snow on New Year's Day. This indicates a good omen, the Empress Dowager declares from her high seat at the banquet. The Emperor and I have hosted the feast, the Empress announces, standing before the gathered royals. Now the Empress will host an entertaining game for you all. It is the Jianzi competition. No one needs to restrain themselves today, she continues, her voice ringing out over the snowy courtyard. Just drink tea and enjoy the snow while watching the fun game. Good, Fu Lin says, his expression unreadable as he sips his tea. I will now take the concubines to change into their costumes, the Empress says, leading the group away. As they walk, she stops a line of eunuchs carrying covered trays. Wait, what are you all carrying? She demands, her eyes narrowing as the trap begins to unfold. And answering, Your Majesty, this Jianzi was made for the concubines, the eunuch stammered, his voice trembling as he presented the ornate shuttlecocks. The Empress hummed, her eyes locking onto a particularly vibrant one adorned with peacock feathers. Such a pretty Jianzi, yet you didn't give it to me? She shrieked, snatching the toy from the tray. When the servant explained it was intended for Lady Fei Xi Yan, her face contorted with petty rage. How dare you speak to me like that? If I like it, then I must have it. She pointed a sharp, accusing finger at the terrified men. Go tell Eunuch Chang that if he hinders me, he'll be put in the interrogation room. The grand announcer's voice boomed through the pavilion. The Jianzi competition will now start. Seated among the imperial guests, Chang Shu, the emperor's 7th brother, leaned toward his sibling. 10th brother, I heard that Queen Mother has brought in some new concubines this year. Now we finally have some beauties to look at. Gao Sai, the 10th brother, didn't even glance toward the stage, his eyes fixed solely on the steaming porcelain bowl in front of him. 7th brother, I do not like women the way that you do, he muttered, his mouth already watering. Every time I come to the palace, I love to have fun and eat good food, he sighed with religious fervor over the aroma. Take a look at this shazhou taikui. It's my favorite dish. I need to wait for it to cool down and slowly enjoy it. Changshu rolled his eyes. Suit yourself, I'll look at the beauties. But as the first performers stepped out, both brothers froze in mid-motion. These are the beauties, Changshu stammered, while Gaosai nearly spat out his tea in a violent spray. The stage was suddenly overtaken by the Empress herself, draped in a gown of such garish crimson and gold that it seemed to glow with its own internal heat. So it's the work of the Empress. The brothers whispered, sweat dropping at the sheer, over-the-top audacity of her display. She twirled with the stolen peacock Jianzi, humming a self-absorbed tune. High on the days, Emperor Shunji winced, pressing a hand to his temple. It's too bright. My head hurts. Even the Empress Dowager struggled to find a compliment. The Empress's costume is very gorgeous. With a sharp cry of phoenix spread wings. Start. The Empress launched the Jianzi into the air. She delivered a powerful kick, but the impact sent something unexpected flying, a hidden yellow ball dislodged from the feathers, whistling through the air. Ah! The Emperor and Empress Dowager gasped in unison as the projectile zoomed directly toward the royal seats. It bounced off a support beam with a loud bowing, narrowly missing their heads. What is this? A guard shouted, his hand flying to his sword. Quick, protect everyone. The ball became a chaotic blur, ricocheting wildly around the pavilion as nobles ducked and screamed. It zipped past Changshu, heading straight for the 10th brother's table. Boop! Splash, the ball landed with a perfect, sickening thud right in the center of Gaosai's soup. The eunuchs rushed forward frantic. Hurry, catch that object. Your Highness, are you all right? Gaosai sat in catatonic silence, soup splattered across his royal robes. My shazhou takui, he whimpered, his world crumbling. The Empress stood frozen on stage, her eyes wide with shock. What is this? She whispered. The Empress Dowager, ever the diplomat, forced a smile to cover disaster. That's right, no one needs to be too surprised. The Empress is just trying to surprise everyone. The Empress quickly latched onto the lie, though sweat beaded on her brow. It's just as Empress Dowager said, this is simply a misunderstanding. I will switch my Jianzi and start dancing again. Shunji, however, had reached his limit. Forget it, your outfit is too bright, making my head spin. You don't need to perform anymore. The Empress Dowager nodded, dismissing her. The Emperor is right. Empress, you should rest for a bit since you're tired. The Empress bowed, her face a mask of simmering fury. Yes, she hissed, while internally screaming, Humphy. Why am I so unlucky? I'm so mad. The announcer stepped in to break the tension. The remaining concubines will now perform. The next performer is concubine, Fei Xi Yan. She glided onto the floor, a vision of elegance in flowing pink silks. Her performance, the goddess of the moon, began with a delicate, high-arching kick. While Chang Xu watched with hearts in his eyes, Gao Sai remained a gray statue of despair. My food? He moaned into the void. He Li sent the shuttlecock soaring toward the rafters. Too bad. She kicked it too high. She'll miss it, the crowd murmured, but He Li didn't look up. She leaped, her body twisting in a flawless mid-air somersault. With a sharp kick, she struck the Jianzi again before gravity could claim it. She landed with the grace of a cat, the Jianzi held perfectly balanced on the edge of her shoe. Oh, her martial art is quite good, one of the lords noted, impressed. Emperor Shun Shi's eyes narrowed, his boredom replaced by a sharp, dangerous curiosity. It's Fei Hong Tasu? He leaned forward, his gaze boring into her. How could she know this move? He Li met his stare with a knowing, confident look. Next, these concubines will continue to perform, the announcer cried. A pair of twins took the floor, their synchronized movements drawing a cheer from Chang Xu. The twins are also pretty. Beside him, Gao Sai remained broken. Give me my food. Another concubine followed, her skill undeniable. Not bad, Chang Xu mused, while Gao Sai's mantra continued. Give me my food. When a particularly radiant dancer appeared, Chang Xu was completely smitten. This one is the prettiest. Gao Sai just stared at his empty bowl. Please, my food. Finally, a senior eunuch approached with a fresh tray. Your Highness, we have brought a new dish for you. Gao Sai's face lit up with the intensity of 1,000 suns. Eh? There's more. I thought each person only get one portion. The eunuch smiled. Originally, is only one dish for each person, but luckily concubine Yejing is feeling ill today and did not attend. That's why I brought you this dish, but there won't be any of it left if you spill it again. Gao Sai practically vibrated with joy. Great. I probably won't be unlucky this time. I must enjoy this dish to the fullest. On stage, concubine Fu Cha stepped up, trembling. I'm so nervous, she whispered. She began her performance, but her kicks were strange and stiff. How strange? The way that the Jianzi flew is so strange, Chang Xu remarked. Gao Sai didn't care. He was ready for his first bite. Haha, my lovely meal is here. Fu Cha bit her lip, thinking of the secret weapon she'd hidden. I put a magnet inside my shoe. I hope I won't get caught with this. But as she tried to kick the Jianzi away, it remained stuck to her soul. Oh no! The magnet is too strong, the Jianzi won't come off. Panicking, she swung her leg with desperate force. Hefeli a ute. Her entire shoe detached, sailing through the air like a projectile. Ah! She screamed as the shoe zoomed toward the table. The splash. The shoe and the Jianzi slammed directly into Gao Sai's second bowl of soup. Gao Sai's eyes went wide, his heart literally breaking. No! My lovely food!